atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a kamen rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Broadcasting across the globe from Two Guys' Room, this is Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my lovely co-host and editor.
Hello, I am Rex, and I don't know if I'll ever get used to that.
I know, it's kind of weird. I don't know. It sounds good, I think, but it is a little weird.
Very weird. Very.
I'm gonna have, it's gonna take me like a year to get used to it.
Real.
So, Rex, how have you been?
Pretty good. How about yourself? Doing anything interesting at the moment?
No. I have had... I can't really talk too much about it, but I will say that I have had a very wild past couple of days. Actually, we actually took last week off in terms of recording. So it's actually been 2 weeks since we've talked. Actually, I think legitimately we haven't talked in almost that entire 2 weeks. So I can't say a lot, but I'll just say that I've had a roller coaster of time recently that relates to, I think I said last recording, I was like, man, it's been rough. It's been wild. And I mean, I look wild right now. I've got the chin strap going, but
I literally jumped in this call and I'm like, who is this wannabe gangster?
Yeah, I'm wearing a hat right now. I never wear a hat during recordings. I'm wearing my hoodie still. I got the hood up. I got the hat on. I got the headphones under the hood, over the hat.
You literally look like a wannabe, white gangster. If
you had one moment, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in life, would you capture it or just let you're coughing about me rapping?
Radio, Mr. Eminem.
But no, I've been crazy busy between work and more work and problems. Rex, what are you? What's new with you? What has happened? Give us your life updates.
Okay. What has happened? So what? Last week when we had I been to the concert last time we recorded? Or was
no.
That after? Oh, that was before. Okay. Oh, that's right. Because last recording was Godzilla Day. That's right. I remember now. Okay, yeah. So I went to a concert for the band Hanabiya, which is one of my favorite bands that I've been introduced to relatively recently. Was actually introduced to it by some people in the KC Discord server. Very cool people. And yeah, it was absolutely awesome to see them live. It was an absolute blast. Probably the most fun I've had at an actual concert. Partially because I was really getting into it with the crowd. Because I was in the middle, pretty much the middle of the mosh pit, so where all the crazy stuff happens. So
mosh pit.
Yeah, the mosh pit, the
wow
pit where the crowd is.
Yeah, you're a partier.
Yeah, no, literally, I was shoulder charging people twice my size. It was awesome.
Oh, and
then being shoulder charged back by them. It was crazy, but it was a lot of fun. The worst thing. And there was there were points where they'd Hanabiya and the other band that played before them. They'd split they'd get the audience to split in the middle, so it'd be half the audience on one side and the other half on the other, and then we'd all just shoulder charge and converge in the middle. It was awesome.
Huh. I don't know if awesome is how I would describe what I'm hearing.
What do you mean
I'm
that's
happy
not awesome?
For you.
What do you mean that's not awesome? Well, how do you see it then? How do you see that?
I would probably have went crazy and been like, get away from me, and like just very like not interested. I'm not a fan of like being that close and like crazy. I'm contrary to what you might think, I'm not a party animal.
Damn. Lame-o.
Shocker, right? You know, I mean, the person who works all the time and is like always talking about how he's like up all the time working and busy. He's not a partier.
Man, I'm going to have to show you how to let loose when I come to America.
You can certainly try.
Wait.
We're not going to address how weird it sounded. We're just going to move on. We're just going to move on.
Rightio. Okay.
I implore you. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, no, it was an absolutely awesome concert. The next day, I don't remember what I did on the next day, to be honest.
You were probably hungover.
No, I only had one drink at the concert, actually. Believe it or not.
Okay.
I kind of figured I would have had more, but I kind of didn't want to have to go to the toilet in the middle of the concert, so I was like, yeah, I'm
you have
good.
a small bladder.
Bro, I feel like it's gotten worse in like the past year. I don't know why.
Clearly. I'm lucky if I go to the bathroom twice a day.
What the bro? Give me your superpower.
Look, here's the thing. In the morning, like right after I wake up, bathroom break. Then I won't use the bathroom again until I get home from work.
That's crap.
I go.
Okay, to be fair, the only reason I go to the bathroom at work is because I drink a lot of water because it's the only thing that keeps me from getting hungry. Sometimes
I felt that. I don't waste my time. I don't waste my time using the bathroom. I have too much to do to use the bathroom. Actually, I think I developed this because in school, like they would make a huge fuss if you went to the bathroom. And so I just learned to not use the bathroom at school. Also, like using a public bathroom, especially at a school, horrible. Like I can probably I can probably count on one hand how many times I actually used the bathroom in high school over the 4 years I was there. Probably on one hand. I don't even know what the bathrooms look like.
I mean, can you even really call them bathrooms? They're more like the chuff spot, you know.
What?
Do you know what a chuff is?
No. I don't know what you're saying. You're saying Australian slang.
I don't even think that's Australian slang.
I think it is because that was never said in my high school. Or you're just a boomer.
It's not boomer. It's Gen Z language.
Well, maybe that's the problem.
Because do you want to know what having a chuff means?
Go for it.
To vape. That's what it means.
We just call them. You hit a vape. You don't chuff a vape. You hit a vape.
You have a chuff.
You take a hit.
You have a chuff.
You take a hit. I've never vaped before, but I know what it's like. Not the vaping part, but I know how to like what the language is. This is a very interesting episode. We're really learning a lot about me in this episode.
Bro is not a party animal, that's for sure.
First of all, I never had time.
Rip.
Second of all, I was never invited.
Rip.
Can you really blame me? I've been to a total of one party in my life. I got invited to 2, but I wasn't allowed to go to them.
Damn.
They were birthday parties.
Did you go to your, prom is basically the formal in America, I think.
prom is
after party.
at the high school, which was boring.
The after party was at the high school? What?
Yeah, they so so where I come from, to prevent underage drinking and poor decisions and baby making, our high school threw after parties that you could win gifts. I won a microwave at my prom after party. And guess what? I already had a microwave. So you want to know what happened to that microwave? I sold it and made $20. And I hung around with friends and I played high school level poker.
That sounds like the lamest after party you could have ever had.
I didn't get invited to a party.
Bro, my formal after party was crazy.
I didn't even have a date to prom. The girl I was going to ask the prom literally ran away from home. She disappeared. It was not me. Okay, it was not me. I didn't do it. It was very unfortunate. Like 2 days before I was going to ask her, she just disappeared. It was a whole thing. And then we found out
she ever come back?
I don't think she ever came back, but she was found. She dyed her hair. She changed her name. She lived in another state.
Why did she leave?
Something with her home life. I don't know. At that point I checked out.
Sense. My God.
And the other girl I was going to ask, I couldn't ask because she was in a 5-year relationship, so I couldn't do that. That'd be bad. And then she broke up with him a month later.
See what happens.
My prom was very interesting.
Your prom after party was so lame. Mine had a bunch of people getting humped by a dog. It was hilarious.
It
was very funny, actually.
Sounds like the opening to Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive at this point.
Rightio, okay.
Have you not seen Dead or Alive?
No.
Oh. You need to experience the first 3 minutes of Dead or Alive.
Rightio.
Genuinely.
I think I just need to experience more Miike.
I agree. I concur with that idea.
Man, we went on a tirade about formal after parties and stuff, but I don't remember where that came from, but yeah, yours was extremely boring compared to mine. Mine was kind of crazy.
I think we're...
sucky part about it was that it ended at 1 a.m. and I'm like, bro, I didn't even have time to get drunk.
Fair enough. No, after our prom after party, which ended at, I want to say midnight or 1, I don't remember. I drove with my best friend in high school. I drove around with him, and then I think we went home. And I think we vibed, and I think he played his video games while I sat there on my phone.
We just walked all the way back to my place.
I remember now. You told me about this.
Did I? What?
I think so.
Well, you know. I don't entirely remember. Outside of that, not too much else. I was at a meeting for a short film I'm working on. Didn't end up doing too much because I showed up at the end of the meeting because I had work during the start of it. But yeah, was fun though. Had some fun conversations. Lots of laughs.
Well, there you go.
Indeed. That is, yeah. So yeah, that's my life this past week, roughly. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, outside of work, I continue to work on Sharkdemic. We're almost done. I don't think I'm going to get everything that we planned on doing, but that's because it's like I said, it's been kind of a wild month or so. I also did some podcast work, but that's pretty typical. On a personal note, I don't know. Have I talked about my weight loss journey?
A bit, yes.
Well, as of, I believe, last recording, I was almost to 30 pounds. Right now, so my scale's been a little wonky. Like I'm within 5 pounds of the weight. But as of yesterday morning, when I weighed myself, I had lost 31 pounds.
Damn.
31 pounds, give or take 2 pounds. So between 29 and whatnot. So that's pretty good. I'm officially the weight I was in high school. So that's exciting. I have about, if we're going based off of the lightest I've weighed in recently, I still have about 8 pounds to lose, and then I'm at the weight that I want to be at. So that's pretty exciting. Outside of that, if we're talking like some work that isn't podcast or SRS Cinema, I did get some new lighting. I got some new lighting, and so I did
Nice.
I did 2 photo shoots with my new lights. One of them was alien inspired. I actually really enjoyed the outcome of that, and then the other one was just kind of a, I like red and blue coloration, and when you do certain color grading there, it can look really nice. So I did a couple of photo shoots, came up with a new profile picture. And then, how I mentioned birthdays, how I've been to like 2. Well, one of them was like last week.
Oh my God.
And so that one was actually a birthday party that I threw for one of my best friends. We went over to her apartment and we surprised her with gifts and a cake and pizza. And we sat around and played card games. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself, I would say.
What, Cards Against Humanity?
No, we played, oh God, what was it? New Phone Who Dis.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
I bought like $200 worth of party card games, and that was the one we ended up doing. I've played most of them already with her.
Why did you buy $200?
Because I was going through a dark time, and when I go through depression spells, I spend my money.
Right.
I actually also spent a ton of money for the birthday party. I didn't realize how expensive birthday parties were.
Oh, those things are mad expensive.
Yeah. And it was like 8 people, and it was like $500 for everything. So
that's a lot.
Funny story. So every Saturday night I have the boys' night out. Me and my friend my friend Inertia. That's what I call us is an inertia, because like we're not a group, because one of us can't ever hang out, and then 2 of them never go with us on these hangouts, and it's technically not, boys' night out. Right, but we do, like, my best friend out of all of them, she is not a boy. So
okay, but she's still one of the boys.
I guess I call us a friend inertia. Because inertia by physics means something that's running parallel until it's stopped. So friends who are not in the group but are like running parallel with us. So it's a weird thing. I'm weird. So
that might be that actually might be the saddest thing I've heard all day.
Well, it's not too late. There could be something worse. But anyways, so every Saturday night we hang out. And so we actually canceled boys' night out to hang out and do this birthday party.
Oh, okay.
And so we all went, we did the birthday party, and now I've decided that since I'm broke and I don't have money for this upcoming boys' night out, one of those people is going to be buying me my dinner. And they're going to find out whenever we go. So that's
something.
Just gonna
drop that on them.
Okay, actually, one of them also already owes me a dinner. So it's like, great. One of you owes me 2 dinners, the rest of you owe me 1 dinner. I could eat for free for a whole month.
Hey, wait a minute. I think I still owe Howard a dinner. Oh. Wait a minute.
There you go. See, now I've reminded you that you are indebted to somebody. See,
Well, hey,
I don't.
someone's indebted $500 to me, so it's fine.
Nice. See, my whole thing. So, like, here's the thing. I don't eat a lot. You know, I've lost 31 pounds. Right. I don't eat a lot. I literally have a diet of protein shakes with the occasional meal. You know, in the last week, I've had ramen noodles, and I think I had one other meal. That's it.
Bro's living that college student life without going to college.
I know.
Oh,
I'm on, and I only had ramen because I haven't had it in a while. So, you know, that's legitimately it. You know, I had ramen because I could, and that's that. And so, you know, it's one of those things where I just don't eat. I save my calories so that I can lose more weight. Because once I get below and hit my goal, I'm going to be a happy person. I'm already happy. I'm mostly happy. Depending on the circumstances at hand.
Yeah, that whole inertia bit made me kind of question things about your happiness, if I'm being honest here.
But I digress. It was a fun time.
If you're at the point where you are calling your friend group an inertia, I think there's reason to be mildly concerned here. Not gonna
It's
lie.
okay. I've never had friends before. It's fine. I threw a party for the first time. I went to a party.
You're raising the reasons why I should be concerned.
It's fine. Just deal with it.
I don't even know what to say to that anymore.
It's okay. I also went and saw a theatrical play. I watched a performance of Mamma Mia.
Radio.
I only did that. So I did it because two of the people I know, two friends of mine, they were one of them was a stagehand, one of them was the stage manager. And so they were like, "You're going to come watch it, right?" And I was like, "I can't say no." So I did. I enjoyed it. I got to meet my old director again for the first time in a while. That was fun. It was weird because I haven't seen him since it's been a couple years. So it was very weird because like a lot of stuff has happened. Some of the people who I don't know these people. They were like, "Did you peak in high school?" I'm like, "What? What? You did not just say that to me." Oh, I was livid. I was about to throw hands. Like these random people are like, "You look like you peaked in high school." I'm like, "Excuse me. What do you mean by that?"
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're doing. But I'm never talking to you again.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, they got me riled up. So, yeah, that was my life. That's been my life. It's a little boring, but, you know, a couple exciting things here and there. And, you know, I'm trying to get my life back on track. It's been a bit crazy, a little wild. I need to go back to the gym sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Real.
I got into a groove. Something messed up my groove, and now it's like, okay, I got to get back to the gym, but, you know, I'm struggling there.
Real. Same boat.
I also got into a groove where, like, me and a friend would hang out every Wednesday. I'd go watch him bowl because he's in a bowling club. But I also have broken that for the last, like, 3 weeks. So it's, like, great. Like, I've really screwed up everything that I was trying to set up. So hopefully I can get back on track here, and hopefully that we can move in a right direction.
I see.
So outside of that, did you see that Takashi Yamazaki's newest film was announced?
Yeah, Grand Gear.
Now, it's being produced by J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot with Sony distributing.
Yep.
That's about all I know. Is there like, I know he's been working on the script for about about a year now. It was like announced like a month or two after -1 came out.
Yeah, I believe it was that he mentioned it originally at that or presumably this was mentioned at that one screening event last year. There's not really too much else other than there was kind of like a bidding war on the film, and that was about it.
And this is Yamazaki's entrance into Hollywood, of course.
Yeah.
And
of course he's doing the screenplay, directing, and producing it. No word on VFX, though.
I'll be really surprised if Shiragumi's not the company that does it.
I'd imagine it'd probably be like American VFX houses, honestly. But I'm sure Yamazaki will he's a VFX artist. He'll have a fair bit of say. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Be like Gareth Edwards, basically, is what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much else to say other than that. I don't really know what it's about, but I'll go see it.
Yeah, I imagine this will be I was talking to a couple other people, and we're not going to get into the whole Godzilla -2 thing because we did cover that on our Godzilla Day episode, so you can hear our thoughts there on that one. But I imagine this will end up being a late 2025, early 2026 release.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if this one will be before or after -1.
This one will definitely be before. Because
maybe.
Here's the thing. We know that he's been writing the screenplay. We know that the screenplay's probably done, right? So now we have a distributor and we have a production company. Now it's on to the casting, right? So they're going to do the cast and then they're going to film and then it'll be VFX. Considering it's a Hollywood production, probably about a year turnaround, right? So I feel like the fact that now they're going into this and the -2 has been greenlit and Yamazaki already had ideas, that tells me that that's going to come shortly after this one.
Maybe. We'll see.
We just know that -2 will not come out in 2027. That's all we know. It won't come out in 2025. That's way too early.
That's still more fan speculation than anything actually confirmed.
Sure. Just based off of previous agreements and decisions between Warner Brothers, Legendary, and Toho.
I mean, and also just get a guess on when the next MonsterVerse film will be.
It's got really a release date.
Nothing set. Oh, wait.
March 23rd.
Was that confirmed?
Yes. They announced it with a release date. They were like, the MonsterVerse continues May 23rd, 2027.
I forgot about that announcement. Because it was kind of a nothing announcement other than that to me.
All we know is it's Legendary, Warner Brothers, Grant Sputore's directing, and it's got that 2027 release date.
Yeah, no, I completely forgot about that. Oh, well.
Oh, and that it's a Godzilla Kong sequel.
Well, I knew that.
That's it. That's all we know.
Damn. That's crazy.
So it's that's about it, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay, fair enough. I had no memory of the release date actually being confirmed.
I'm just that good.
No.
Oh, I guess there is one more piece of news.
What?
So this is actually kind of an exclusive. I'm that cool, guys.
He's really not.
So actually, Shinpei Hayashiya on my post talking about War of the Ninja Monsters, Jiron versus Gora, announced that instead of retiring from filmmaking, he decided that the reception to Jiron versus Gora was good enough that he could and should make a sequel. He actually said that the script is already done and he's going to be working on another one. So,
oh damn, neat.
That's very exciting. I'm very excited. I hope I get to work on it. I actually have a couple ideas I got to approach somebody about. So that's all I can really say on that regards. But needless to say, I am very excited that he has decided to continue to work and do film. So
Nice.
we have more kaiju films coming. I'm trying to think, is there anything really else to cover?
Not really. There was a screening of the new Shin Kamen Rider episode format. So there's a very interesting photo of Hideaki Anno and a Nazi salute. That's fun.
Nice. Speaking of which, we do have some listener feedback.
What, from the Nazis? Jesus, I wasn't looking to cultivate that kind of audience. Jesus Christ.
This is America.
Oh, rightio.
No, but we do have a couple comments actually from our Yokai Month episodes. Our first one was in response to our Kibakichi episode. Josh Holloway sent in, "Some people hate it, but I absolutely love this film to death. If you haven't already, check out the director's other films, Sakuya, Slayer of Demons, and Death Kappa." Now, Josh, we have covered Death Kappa. We covered that like 2 years ago, actually.
Yeah. I wanted to watch Sakuya before Kibakichi, but I wasn't able to get it in time, unfortunately.
I still am waiting for an official release, as I always do. But the moment that does become available, you can absolutely bet I'm going to watch it. I don't recall Death Kappa that well, but you can go back and listen. I think we ended up agreeing that it wasn't very good, but it was the beginning of the whole kaiju comedy.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really the beginning, was it? Because like Monster X had already come out.
Yeah, that's right. That Monster X was the blueprints. Death Kappa solidified it, and then from there we got everything.
Honestly, the most I remember from that is it looked pretty good. Half the movie was like a Kamen Rider tribute. Half of it was an actual kaiju movie. Something goes on too long. Monster only destroys one building. That's about all I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember much more myself, so...
Yeah. I'm like trying to pull from the memory banks, and that's more or less it.
Go check out that episode. It's a lovely episode. That was whenever I think we really established this formula, so... It's an earlier one. We probably don't go as detailed or in-depth, but we do talk a lot about it, so...
Yeah.
Outside of that, we also have a comment for our Yokai Monsters along with Ghost episode. This comes from our fellas at Podzilla. And they said, quote, big fans, boys. Been loving your yokai coverage. And yes, Yokai Month. We covered all 3 Dai Yokai films, plus Red Tears and Kibakichi. We still have Kibakichi 2... and The Great Yokai War and The Great Yokai War Guardians. I don't know when we'll get to those, but we will eventually.
Someday
Down the road, we will cover both of those films. But thanks for the support. I'd love for us to eventually find a way to collaborate. The recording, I know we talked about it a couple of years ago, and then it just, I think we both got busy. Rex, you know they're based in New Zealand, right?
God damn.
So, like, literally, we would have no problems. We record in Australian time.
That's funny.
It would work. Not for me, because I'd probably not sleep, but it would still
you
work.
don't sleep anyways.
I don't sleep. Actually, it's funny. So I've been talking about getting a new job, actually, on an overnight shift. And... like, because it would work out. I'd have more days off, da-da-da-da-da. I'd have more free time. They were like, well, the biggest problem is, like, you're going to have to switch your sleep schedule. I was like, look, I already sleep at, like, 3 a.m. till about 7 a.m. I don't really sleep. So, like, I could easily just transition to that, and I wouldn't really struggle. I wouldn't. So... much appreciated for the support. I'm glad everybody enjoyed our yokai coverage. I know we were a little late on the last episode, but we got it out. And since then, we've gotten out 2 bonus episodes, so that's exciting. A couple of interviews.
Yippee.
So, I hope everybody's enjoyed our coverage. And by the time this comes out, like, there will be 2 other Godzilla episodes. 3 other Godzilla episodes. So there's more content. So if you want to leave us a comment on our YouTube videos, or reply to us on Instagram, or DM us, reply to us or DM us on Facebook, add us on our Discord server, email us, kaijuconversation@gmail.com. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a Threads. We have a Blue Sky now. We have Twitter. You can DM us or add us on Twitter or reply to us on Twitter. I think those are all the methods of contacting us. Or you can, like, message me or Rex on our respective platforms and be like, hey, I love this podcast episode. Great job, guys.
Yeah. You can complain to me about how concerned you are for Elijah's health there as well. It's fine.
Please don't. I already get enough of that.
I'll let his doctor know.
What doctor? I don't have a doctor. You're laughing, but I'm not. I literally have never had a doctor.
I'll let his dentist know.
I don't have a dentist.
Yeah, gynecologist.
I don't have a gynecologist.
You sure?
Yes.
Mm.
I've been to the doctor probably about 5 times in my life, and it was when I was sick.
5 times?
Yes, and by that I mean, like, clinics to, like, get a checkup on why I'm sick. I've been to the hospital
5 times?
Yes. There's a strong possibility I could have, like, a deathly bad, like, I could die tomorrow disease, and I wouldn't know. I kind of prefer that, though. You know, living... We're learning a lot about me today, aren't we?
That's mental. I used to be in and out of the goddamn hospital.
I've been to the hospital twice. The first time was when I was 4. I had pneumonia and strep throat and an inner ear infection and a cold and the flu and allergies. And then I went to the hospital like a day after I turned 20 for heart problems. Which turned out to be stress and anxiety. Which, fun fact, that started coming back recently.
Maybe you should go to a hospital.
I think it's... I do believe, I genuinely believe I'm developing high blood pressure, stress, and anxiety problems.
You should get that checked out. Like,
I know. Well, maybe
you're not going to, but I implore you.
I know. I never check myself out. I never, like, make sure that I'm okay. I don't take care of myself. I'm literally a walking, ticking time bomb. I could croak tomorrow. I should probably get my car checked out. I should probably do this and that and sleep and eat and do everything. I know.
Yeah, but go to the hospital. Those ones matter a little more.
I can't afford the hospital. This is America.
Oh, that's right. Go to the... I don't know.
Go to watching
Awful.
Tokusatsu. I haven't watched any Rex. What have you watched? That was a blindsided transition you didn't expect.
That's a very funny thought of you to think I've watched any Tokusatsu recently.
Are you telling me that once again you and I are in the same predicament where we haven't watched any Tokusatsu?
For what it's worth, I watched Yojimbo.
How was that?
Very good.
I love
very
Yojimbo.
Good. My friend who I saw it with actually liked it more than Seven Samurai.
So far, Yojimbo is my favorite Kurosawa film.
It's not my favorite, but I definitely liked it more this time around.
See, I've seen Yojimbo, I've seen The Hidden Fortress, Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood. I think is that it? I thought.
Damn, you haven't seen Rashomon?
Oh, I have seen Rashomon. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I've seen Rashomon. I think that's about it.
So you've pretty much only seen his period pieces, essentially.
I need to watch Sanjiro and Ikaru since I own them. And then I think...
I'm seeing Sanjiro tomorrow.
Nice. I think after that, what I want to do is I want to get High and Low. I want to see High and Low and The Bad Sleep Well. Basically, the way I'm doing it is anything that's available on Blu-ray from Criterion, I'm buying and watching. Because I'm
just trying to see whatever, when I can, whatever's in theaters. So, like, High and Low, I think, comes out the week, like, next week. So, I don't know if I'll be... it's High and Low and Redbeard. I don't know if I'll be able to see Redbeard, but I'm going to try. Because I might be busy that day. But it's fine.
Now, this is the 4K transfers, I assume?
Yes.
Fair enough.
I gotta say, Yojimbo, I did not appreciate this on my first watch, but goddamn, Masaru Sato's score.
Oh, I love the score.
It might be his best. It might be the best score I've heard from him, honestly.
It is.
I think I prefer it to, like, all his Godzilla work.
Yeah. I would agree. I would say that it's probably my favorite. I think I've heard a couple more Sato scores than you because I think Sato also did some Zatoichi. I think he did like one or two. I think.
I don't think so.
I'm checking. Well, okay, so I've seen Throne of Blood, Godzilla Raids Again, the H-Man, The Hidden Fortress, Yojimbo, Ibra, Son of Godzilla, Mechagodzilla. Oh no, I haven't. Okay, so I've seen 8. I've listened to 8 of his scores.
Well, joke's on you. I've actually seen more because I've seen Japan Sinks. So,
Oh.
I'll bother.
Maybe when I watch High and Low, we can be equal then.
But I'm also going to see High and Low.
Well, then I'll watch Redbeard. And High and Low.
But I might also be watching
and the Lower
Redbeard.
Depths. I'll just watch all of his movies, okay? God, I need to get back to Zatoichi.
236 movies composed by Sato.
Yep.
You're going to watch them all?
Yep.
Including the ones that haven't gotten American releases?
Yep. I'm going to watch it all. I'm just going to put it in my brain.
Right, yeah.
Speaking of which, I need to get back to Zatoichi. I'm like mostly done. I just got to wrap up the
you
series.
need to watch Zatoichi meets Yojimbo.
Yeah, literally, I have that one and then 6 others, and I've watched all of them. And I bought the Beat Takeshi one, so literally, like, I can watch almost everything besides Ichi, and there was one other one.
Zatoichi, the last or the final?
Yes. And then I will I'm almost there. But yeah, I got a lot I gotta do. I bought Eraserhead. I never watched Eraserhead.
Bruh.
So if you and I haven't watched any Tokusatsu, what are we doing here?
Well, I don't know, but last week I did happen to watch a Godzilla movie because I thought we were going to be recording last week, not going to lie.
Right. Yeah, so the last Godzilla movie we covered was Godzilla vs. Megalon. It is 2024, so maybe are we doing Final Wars? Final Wars is kind of like in that track, in that area.
Let's wait till the 4K transfer comes out.
Right. Okay. So,
See if it's an upscale first.
I mean, 2014 has a 4K. Why don't we do that?
I'm good.
Yeah, we've already covered 2014. We need to give that a little bit more of a break.
I just need to give it a break in general for like 5 years.
So Space Godzilla doesn't have one. What about 84? I mean, we could do Godzilla 84.
We could, but I didn't watch that.
Okay. I don't know what else. What else has a 4K that we could cover that's like remotely relative to Megalon and like an anniversary, if we're doing anniversary stuff?
I think you're missing the obvious movie here.
Terror of Mechagodzilla.
No.
That got announced with the 4K. We could do that.
It did, but we're not doing that.
Oh.
We're skipping that movie, by the way. We're going straight to 84 after
We'll
this
beat
one.
you up if we do.
What are you going to do? Beat me up through the screen?
Yep. I'm going to Sadako your
I'd
ass.
like to see you try. Go right ahead.
So what are we covering, Rex?
Godzilla, Tai Mechagodzilla.
You mean Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster?
Or more simply, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
How about Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster?
Ah, the legally safe title.
Okay, Bionic Monster, that was kind of stupid for Universal to go after them for that.
I agree. That is really stupid.
Yeah, so
This is Universal.
That's true. They also tried to copyright the T-Rex.
Bro, they tried copywriting like all dinosaurs. Like they've tried like striking people over like a goddamn baryonyx.
Gone. We created the baryonyx. We beat God to it.
Wasn't a real creature. What are you talking about?
You know, they could technically copyright the Spinosaurus design.
No, they couldn't, because that's basically just what Spinosaurus looked like for however many years.
They could still try. I'm really surprised they weren't able to...
Who are they going to sue? Ernest Stromer?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised that they have, like, the T-Rex roar, like, has been used in so much. Like, I'm surprised...
That's actually the one thing where you'd think that would be more protected, yeah.
Like, Zarkor the Invader literally uses the T-Rex roar. It's so freaky.
Japanese cinema uses it a lot. Like, the Gara series, some of the later spin-offs of that, like Zero Black Blood, have monsters that are using that roar all the time.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, that's the one thing outside of the obvious, like, oh, the name, the logo, the score, the story. Like, that's the one thing that, like, why would they not copyright the roar?
Maybe it is. Maybe other companies just
don't care.
Don't care, yeah.
Don't care, didn't ask. Screw you, Universal.
I don't know how, like, copyright works for sound effects and sound libraries.
Well, because, like, I don't know if you have this in Australia, but, like, if you go to any toy store and you get a dinosaur that has a button that roars, you're going to get a Godzilla roar.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
And, like, it's like, how does that happen?
Bro, I knew the Godzilla roar before I even knew had ever seen a picture of Godzilla.
Me too. It's really funny. I'd love to know where that originated too. Because it's the exact same roar. Right? Like, it's not even like a deviation. It's always the exact same roar. I was actually with a friend the other day. Oh, I didn't. So I had another friend who had a birthday. I had 2 birthdays recently. And
wait, was that both your birthday parties that you've been to?
No. The other one, I just took my friend to the mall. I just took my friend to the mall. And we looked around. There was a toy store, and we went in.
Damn, what a lazy birthday party on your end.
Look, wow. He didn't give me anything, okay? I ended up spending $500 on cologne and bought him shoes. The cologne was for me. I also bought him food because I can. But no, when we went into a toy store. And I was like, hey, here's something funny. Let me show you. And he was like, what? Oh, it's just a dinosaur. And I pressed the button. I was like, listen to this. He was like, that's the Godzilla roar. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, how? He was like, how does that even work? I'm like, it's been a thing for decades. It just happens. It's really cool. I don't know where it came from. Yeah. He was like, interesting. He didn't care. Nobody cares. I do have a friend who keeps sending me a Godzilla starter pack image. Godzilla fan starter pack image. And, like, she continues to harass me about it.
Damn. Rip.
So, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, released March 21st, 1974. Another film in the Toho Champion Festival. Now, whenever the whenever it was shown at the Toho Champion Festival, so again, we had the spring ones, so these were released in the spring ones. It was shown alongside Hello Finger 5, which was a short film. It was also shown alongside Neo-Human Cashern, which was an anime, an episode of that. Samurai Giant's Duel at the Murderous River, another anime. Heidi, Girl of the Alps, another anime, and it was shown alongside Ultraman Taro, The Blood-Sucking Flower is the Spirit of a Young Girl, that episode. So, once again...
that's my favorite Taro episode.
I don't like Taro. I don't want to talk about Taro.
Never seen it.
I hate Taro.
We're covering every single episode of Taro today.
No. No. The film, so it is the 20th anniversary film. You know, Godzilla came out in 1954. 20 years later, we had Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. This is the 60th anniversary of it now. That's kind of wild. No, 50th. It's 50th. So, I mean, where do we start where we left off last time? Godzilla versus Megalon, kind of go from there?
Sure, it bombed.
It did not do well.
Bomb.
And so Tomoyuki Tanaka wanted to fix that, right? At this point, you know, Megalon was the lowest attended Godzilla film.
Right, with like less than 1 million in attendance.
And so they needed something to bring the Godzilla franchise back.
Yeah.
And so, to my understanding, Tanaka approached Sekizawa and Fukuda. Again, B team, right? By this point, Fukuda, you know, he had worked on Ibra, Son of Godzilla, Gigan, Megalon, and so this one. And Sekizawa, who before this had worked on 7 Godzilla films, I believe. So he approached them. He was like, "Hey, we need another Godzilla film." Now, the approach for this one, to my understanding, and I don't know if this was just during production or if this was an Nakano thing or what, but it was, we need to go back to basics. You know, the whole Henshin Hero TV thing, it's not working. It's not working. You can go home and watch that on TV. People aren't going to go see it at a theater. It's not going to work. Which created a problem because by this point, you know, we're 14. This is the 14th Godzilla film. And what is left, right? And that was the problem, was what do you do? Where do you go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that was very difficult for specifically Shinichi Sekizawa, who basically said, I don't know what to do.
There are no more monsters left.
Which is very interesting because, I mean, Sekizawa had done so much for Toho. I mean, he started work with them on Varan, The Unbelievable, in 1958. And since then, he had done so many of Toho's biggest films for their Kaiju and Tokusatsu.
Right. Yeah.
So the initial story, it wasn't a script, it was a story treatment, was actually co-written because Sekizawa needed a second person to work on it, right?
Yeah.
So he actually was paired up with Masami Fukushima. And the reason for that was Masami Fukushima was on the board for Expo 75, which was also known as the Okinawa International Ocean Exposition. And the reason for how he got involved was Tomoyuki Tanaka was also involved with that. He was working on that. So he got with Fukushima-san and was like, hey, I need a Godzilla movie. Can you work on this? And so him and Sekizawa paired up. Now, for anybody who doesn't know who Fukushima is, he's actually responsible for one of Toho's greatest science fiction horror films. He worked on Matango. He also worked on Toei's Terror Beneath the Sea. He also was the lead writer for SF Magazine, science fiction magazine.
Which is a still ongoing magazine to this day.
Mm-hmm. So him and Sekizawa worked together on this. And actually, fun fact, this was Sekizawa's last script, period. This was the film that ended it for him. So, working on the script, they were told that they had to include promotion for the Sunflower Sapporo, a ferry, and then the Naha Hotel, which we do see in the final product.
Yes.
But those were requirements. Alongside, they also had to do promotion for Okinawa, because that was a big topic at the time, and that's because Okinawa had returned back to Japan May 5th of 1972. And this is where I would like to go into that a little bit, if you're fine with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is all called the reversion of Okinawa, which basically is Okinawa was under the United States power. It was a territory of the United States. Okinawa is an island off the coast of Japan. And the reason that the United States got these islands, they actually got quite a few islands. They got the Nansei Islands, which includes the Nampo Islands, Nansei Islands, and other island chains, including Ogasawara, actually. They had all of that. They proposed to just make those straight up U.S. territories. So this Treaty of Japan was signed September 8th of 1951 following World War II, right? So the U.S. occupation immediately happened afterwards. They transformed the country into a democracy. They, revisioned it, whatnot. It was a treaty between Japan and the Allied powers. It's also called the San Francisco Treaty because it was signed in San Francisco. Japan paid for all the damages they caused in World War II. The trademarks and copyrights of Japan would be recognized internationally. Japan became a sovereign nation, independent, and they had to destroy all of German property in Japan. And they also had 90 days to withdraw from Japan at this point. All the Allied powers. So the problem was, the United States took control of all these islands, and it made it difficult for Japanese. I mean, they were recognized as Japanese. They spoke Japanese. It was Japanese, like they were in the Japanese area. But to actually travel to like Okinawa and whatnot, you would have to have an international passport. You would have to be able to travel internationally because they were recognized as U.S. territories. There's also U.S. bases that are still there to this day. Actually, to this day, most of the inhabitants and most of the financial institutions pushed by military members of the United States and their families, which we actually saw that in Gamera Rebirth. Like the idea of like kids in Okinawa on Japanese bases is still a common thing. They actually, up until, I don't remember the exact year, but they drove, in Japan, they drive the opposite of what you do here in America. But in Okinawa, they drove how I would define as normal, driving on the right and left. It's very interesting. And so this whole like giving Okinawa back, Okinawa is also very rich with history. So it was a very big thing. Japan actually had to pay $230 million to get Okinawa back. And so once they did, they decided to, the same people behind Expo 70, which if you've seen Gamera versus Zegra, you know about that. It's very famous. It's been utilized in Japanese pop culture for decades, especially that one specific tower that I recognize from 20th Century Boys, but I digress. They decided to do the Okinawan International Ocean Exposition, which was held at Motobu Town, Kugami County, Okinawa Prefecture. It's also known as Ocean Expo, and it was done to celebrate the return of Okinawa to Japan. Now, there have been a lot of it's similar to kind of the issues that America has with like Puerto Rico and whatnot, where it's like they're a part of Japan, but they also kind of get discriminated. Okinawa is like horrible in terms of like its stability. They have some of the lowest minimum wages. They have one of the worst economies. They don't really get help. they're left to their own devices, right? Because they're not on the mainland. So there is a bit of a dilemma there, right? But they really wanted to help like jettison Okinawa into Japan again. You know, it was a welcome back. So they spent 3 years developing it. It would end up occurring in 1975. And this was one of the films that was shot on location, partially shot on location at the proposed site for Expo 75. That they would, they would help promote it, and they wanted to push Okinawa and its rich history. And to my understanding, it did very well in 1975, but since then it has slowly just became U.S. influences. I actually, if I remember correctly, I've heard from some people that in Okinawa, it's mostly English. Like, you can go anywhere in Okinawa and you're going to hear English. So, yeah, it's not the greatest in terms of its Japanese roots. It's been very much, there's a lot of like American culture there's actually there's like 120 churches in Okinawa too, like Christian churches. So it's quite interesting to see the impact that America has on Okinawa. And we do see that in this film as well, and we're going to get to that as we go through this film. But yeah, it's quite the interesting topic, Okinawa and Japan and America.
Damn. Outside of that, yeah, early versions of the script featured Anguirus and Mothra. Anguirus is in the film, but he had more of an far more extensive role, actually, being where probably having the most screen time in the film in like early versions of the story, even having a scene taken literally just his Maser tank scene from Gigan, basically.
Yeah, there's so you're talking about the Monsters Converge on Okinawa Shodan and Cape Zanpa script that was the story treatment by Sekizawa and Fukushima. Yeah, because they had Mothra and Anguirus being the main characters fighting the aliens and the alien robot Garugan, which sounds a lot like Gigan, I might say.
Oh, I just think of the Garuga aliens.
Eventually,
when it's like Garuga.
Yeah, it's true. Some people have said that it could be similar to that. Now, Mothra eventually would be replaced with King Barugan, which was the prototype for King Caesar. But it's also important to note that in the story treatment for Godzilla vs. Megalon, there was a proto King Caesar too. So that's where King Caesar started, was in that story treat. Or no, it wasn't. Was it Megalon or was it Gigan? It was Gigan.
What with what was it? The Mogu?
The Majin.
Majin Tool. Majin Tool. Yeah, that's Gigan.
Yeah, Majin Tool was the prototype King Caesar, eventually became King Barugan, and then became King Caesar. So that's kind of the lineage of King Caesar's development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of Gigan, he was also in an earlier version of the story with Mechagodzilla.
Yes. Now that was from the draft that Fukuda did with his co-writer Hiroyasu Yamamura, whom Fukuda contacted personally over the phone and asked him to help work on the film. And so they worked together on a script called Showdown in Zanpam Isaki, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which that underwent 2 drafts. And that second draft was basically what you saw in the final film. And you're right, there was actually like one of the scripts was basically a Godzilla versus Gigan.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's even so much so that it's like the one with Mothra and Anguirus is just like Gigan. There's only one battle in the film, and that's the climax of it.
Right. And it's also important to note that the reason that Gigan eventually was included was because Gigan actually was very popular. Gigan was selling toys. Gigan, it would make sense, right? Gigan was very popular in his movie.
Anguirus was also very popular at this time as well with the kids, which is why I no doubt why he was obviously in the final film, but also had a pretty extensive role in an early story.
Mm-hmm. He also came out in Megalon. It's very interesting because you do have, so, you know, if you look at the Godzilla franchise, you know, you have 54 and Raids Again, right? Those are like the double feature, right? And then you have like King Kong versus all the way to Astro Monster, right? Like you have that group. And then you have Ibra to Destroy All Monsters, right? Or Ibra and Son of Godzilla. Ibra and Son of Godzilla. Kind of, yeah. And then you have Destroy All Monsters, which was like the big climax. And then you have All Monsters Attack and Hedorah that do work as a good double feature. Both cover similar topics, similar concerns. And then you have the 70s trilogy, which even though there is a Mechagodzilla duology, Gigan Megalon Mechagodzilla is a lot easier and a much more clear through line because all three of them include Anguirus because of Anguirus' popularity. All three of them would have included Gigan because of Gigan's popularity. All three of them were Fukuda, Sekizawa, and these lower budgets. It's very interesting because they do follow through pretty nicely. At one point, Space Hunter Nebula M was going to have a brief cameo in one of the drafts as a alien that was going to be mentioned.
Right. Well, more, mentioned rather than an outright cameo.
Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting to see stuff like that come up here. You know,
I would be remiss if I didn't mention, while we're on that, just the whole original idea with the aliens, with the Garuga aliens, if I remember right. Yeah. Them, where they were going to, like, conquering Earth so that they could auction it off to other aliens. I think that's honestly kind of an amazing premise.
It's very, and see, that's where the influence of like Ultraman I think shine through, because that's absolutely something that would appear in an Ultraman episode.
I swear it. I mean, isn't that basically, not quite, but isn't that more or less like similar to the idea Mephiles had in Shin?
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I don't think he was outright auctioning off the planet, but like he was trying to exploit it before the other aliens could.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see where, I mean, it's obvious that those Henshin heroes, Kyodai heroes influence was very much there for that first story treatment. There was also two other pitches. One was called Godzilla versus Gezira, which just got shot down. I don't know of anything about it. And then Tomiyuki Tanaka even pitched the story where a Chinese nuke and a U.S. nuke went off, and they created two Godzillas, and they converged on Japan, and it was a Godzilla versus Godzilla fight. But that was deemed too politically concerning. But one thing as well, you know, Destroy All Monsters at one point was supposed to be the last Godzilla film, and then it didn't. And I guess at one point, Teruyoshi Nakano said that this was going to be the last Godzilla film. And it's not the first time that it's not the last time a Mechagodzilla film was going to be the last one. Terror of Mechagodzilla obviously was for a time. 2. Mechagodzilla 2 was planned to be the last one. And the only reason it wasn't was because Sony dropped the ball. And that was another
anniversary film.
Final Wars originally was going to be at one point was going to be a Mechagodzilla movie. Mechagodzilla was going to appear in Final Wars at one point, but because he was already reused, he was going to be scrapped. GVK was supposed to be the last MonsterVerse movie at one point in its plan, and Mechagodzilla was in that. There's just a lot of points where Mechagodzilla is like the end all. He was the end
of Godzilla Singular Point.
He was. It's very interesting that oddly enough, it almost seems like once you get to the point where it's like, okay, Godzilla gets to fight another Godzilla and it's a mechanical clone, it's like to a lot of people, that is the end all be all. Which is weird. Some people relate that to Destroya. Some people relate that to...
He was the death of a fan reception to the anime trilogy.
That's true. He was for me. Ghidorah is an obvious one. Singular, or the anime trilogy did that. Final Wars did that. Some people, try to put Space Godzilla on that level because, Space Godzilla was supposed to be the last one at one point. Ghidorah was the last one in Destroy All Monsters. So there is, it seems like between Mechagodzilla and King Ghidorah, you have your, these are your final
those are
bosses.
the two big bads. They're the most recurring villains of this series. They are two members of the Big Five, the Toho Five. So,
right.
Yeah.
But one thing was certain was people, they wanted to bring this back around. And I think, obviously, the reason that Sekizawa and Fukushima's story treatment got denied primarily was because they wanted to return to formula, right? Because Megalon didn't work well, right? Megalon failed. Gigan worked. It was a return to some sort of formula, but it also it didn't have enough going for it. And then Hedorah was too weird, right? So you basically had to go back to Destroy All Monsters, right? And so they kind of approach it that way. They also wanted to kind of try to compete with Toei Yakuza films at the time.
Right, yeah.
Which were very violent. This is also the first film to introduce Interpol, International Police, which it's important to note, by this point on television, investigation TV series were getting very popular. And so that was something that was growing in popularity. Planet of the Apes was also popular. Look at Spectre-Man with the ape villains. By the end of the year that this came out, Tsuburaya Productions did their Ape Army TV series, which we know is Time of the Apes.
Worth mentioning that Escape from the Planet of the Apes had come out in December of '73 in Japan, if I remember right. So,
and the two Planet of the Apes films that had come out did extremely well, and I'm pretty sure it was I don't know if it was semi-popular, but Japanese technicians worked on the films, right? So that was probably something that also helped that. They also just look like tokusatsu films, right? They fit that to a T.
And foreign films were quite popular in Japan during the 70s.
Right, and that was one of the big things was importation. Importation became more popular than producing films. And so all of that combined, Godzilla had to adapt, right? They had to have the outside influence with the cultural relevance, with the classic Godzilla charm. And so that's where we do see the formula for this film, right? And it is still obviously a Sekizawa story, right? It has all the beats of a Sekizawa story, literally. Mm-hmm. Your human characters are running around. Now, admittedly, unlike the previous films, this one does have them more directly involved, similar to how they were in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say that that's actually a good comparison here.
Yeah. Hey, there's no bit of the ending isn't just all of our characters standing on a hill watching. Only half our cast is doing
that. Right. And so, on top of all that, they wanted to return to form. They wanted Godzilla to be scary. They wanted an evil Godzilla, which they couldn't do by this point. So that's why we see the fake Godzilla inclusion. That's to make Godzilla a villain again. We have, callbacks to 54, which we'll talk about. We have a lot of things here that are trying to return to formula, but also not. They're trying to appease the 70s, but they're also working to make things relatively safe.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of the formula for this film, kind of where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah. With all that being said, do you think we should just get into the film? Actually, I will bring up that it's also worth noting that following the, obviously a lot of these previous short films the budgets have been becoming more and more terminal. This one did see a little bit of an increase. I don't think it was at Hedera's level, but I think it was pretty close. It was probably the highest since Hedera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was.
And that came partially from the release of Japan Sinks, of all things.
Yeah, they actually reused one of the sets from Japan Sinks. And to my understanding, a lot of the effects team, which already, I mean, they were understaffed, right? But the effects team was very excited to work on this film because of the reception of Submersion of Japan.
Exactly.
And how much fun they had. That film seemingly is what kind of gave Godzilla this last little push, which got us through this one and the next film. Which, by the way, this was the second Godzilla film produced by Toho Izo. They're also the ones that did Submersion of Japan and Espy, and would go on to do a couple other Tokusatsu films. So now an interesting thing is effects filming wrapped February 23rd of 1974. So they had less than a month before they had to release the film. And there was a lot of compositing in this, and that was apparently a huge headache for the editing team to composite all of it.
Especially since Koichi Kawakita was apparently very, very anal about it as well, and how it looked.
Yeah, he was determined. Well, but you got to give them credit, right? I mean, Nakano and Kawakita both have talked very highly of Mechagodzilla 74. And I think it's very obvious that this was okay, we're going to make this work, right? We're going to bring Godzilla back.
There's definitely a step up from the previous films in production value and more or less everything going on.
Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot to be said about this film because of that. And unless you have anything else to say, I do think we can absolutely go ahead and get into the film and what it did.
Sure. Let's go.
I mean, we do start off kind of interesting. We do get Anguirus right off the bat. Again, in the 70s, it was established we got to have monster action very quick. So they open up with Anguirus. That's something that all these films have done is open with a monster, right? And so instead of Godzilla, and another interesting thing is it's very obvious that the writers' staff, I mean, Fukuda was not thrilled, Sekizawa was not thrilled. They did not want to do a Godzilla movie. And that's apparent in all of the drafts because Godzilla's not really in this film.
Yeah, that is kind of funny.
Because previously, I mean, starting with Hedera, and then Gigan, and then... actually, I don't remember if Hedera... I think Hedera opens with Godzilla. Gigan does, and so does Megalon with the opening narration.
Hedera doesn't open with Godzilla. He doesn't show up till about the 20-minute mark.
So Hedera's... Gotcha.
Because that's when he's...
So it was... again, this is another moment where, in Gigan and Megalon, we open with a monster. They had already done that twice before. This third time, they're like, let's make Anguirus show up. I think that's very interesting. And then after we get this opening with Anguirus, we get a mountain exploding. Also, we do get some of Sato's music, which is very beautiful.
We love Sato's music here.
Which I think we can both agree that this is probably his most famous score.
This is absolutely his most iconic Godzilla score. I mean, just the Godzilla vs. Anguirus theme alone, that track is one of the most iconic non-Ifukube tracks in the franchise. If not the most, honestly.
I do love the ice set too, and apparently it's supposed to be Siberia, where Anguirus is at. From what I read, I love
read
this.
It was Memory, but it might be Siberia.
Maybe both. I don't know.
Both.
It could be. I think in the script, like they said, it was Siberia, but like in certain reference material, they changed it. But I do love the sets in this film are beautiful. Like this is the first time in a long time we've had beautiful sets in a Godzilla film.
There's also a lot of really nice like on location stuff too.
Yes, and that was part of the whole promotional thing for Okinawa, right? And the promotional stuff for. Because they also had to do promotion for the Gyokusen Cave, and so like they were able to film on location at those places. So a lot of that stuff we do see because that was a part of the whole promotional campaign, was promoting these tourist locations.
The boat as well, of course. I think that one's particularly funny.
Yes, because it's very like they do very obvious like promotional shots.
Yeah, and they just spend like a whole chunk of the movie there. I read that in like earlier drafts it was even longer that they spend on the boat.
There's even like a couple of monster sequences that occur like on the boat. At one
point in one of them. Yeah.
And then the hotel, there's like a whole thing at the hotel.
Yeah, the aliens are staying at the hotel in one of the scripts.
Yeah. Which later I think got reused for terror. So yeah, no, it's funny to see all that stuff, you know, because there's a lot of jokes about how like, oh, kaiju an everyday thing, you know, kind of like in Godzilla the series where like they do show Godzilla in the Sea of Japan, and the kid's like, look, mommy, it's Gojira, and she's like, oh, Gojira would never be in Japan's kid. Just like how it's like every day, like common, like a monster's there. It's kind of like that, where it's like, oh, Angara swims by. Very cool. I think that stuff's really funny when like movies, especially the Toho films, do that, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's another day in kaiju land, you know, Godzilla's just casually walking by.
Fun world building, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something, you know, it's weird because like later on in this film, and I'll just bring this up now, they do have over the radio, they're like, some people say that there's a monster traveling underground, and then they just shut off the radio like it's whatever. Stuff like that's a little funny to see and hear. Just because it's like, oh,
they say that?
It's a monster. Whenever our main character he's laying in bed at his uncle's, and he's listening to the radio, and the radio, like over the radio, is like, the earthquakes have been increasing, and some sources say that it's a monster traveling underground.
Before Anguirus and Mechagodzilla fight each other. Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
But something that doesn't make sense is there's a lot of imagery of mountains exploding.
Why is Mechagodzilla just in a mountain rock?
I don't know. We get an opening explosion here right before the title cards too, before we get just some nice scenery of like Okinawa and Shisa statues, which I thought was really funny. Like they really want to push the whole like Okinawa and Shisa thing, and I think that's hilarious.
I mean, hey, he's the secondary monster hero here, so may as well. The plot basically revolves around him.
Right, I mean, he is the plot MacGuffin. And then we open with some Okinawan Azumi royal family stuff. You know, they're watching some ceremonies with Nami, one of our main characters.
Worth noting that in early scripts, she was the actual female lead of this movie. I bring up that up partially because perhaps the biggest problem with this movie is that there are so many characters here.
Oh my god, yes. And it's obvious like they're trying to bring back the whole like ensemble. Like in Ghidorah, right? You've got like Shindo.
Needlessly large cast. There's several characters you could just combine together. Like the two brothers, you could honestly make them one character. Yes. The two professors make one character. Like the only reason to have them, either of them as separate characters, is to split them up at certain points in the film. But honestly, you could if you restructured certain scenes in the film, that's like you could negate that issue and just streamline the problem.
No, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem with this plot is it's the same story going on in two different places, and you're trying to keep track of both, and it's like the same thing's happening both places. I don't understand this. And it's funny because previous to this, we've had really small casts. You know, Hedera, we had a main cast of 5 people, the parents, the son, the girl, and the brother who dies and nobody acknowledges, but they're all very hollow, right? And then in Gigan, we have our like hippie, our Mamagon, the girlfriend, our manga artist, and the sister.
Yeah. And then the brother,
so,
too.
like, we have a 4 and the brothers, team of 5, which works, but they have nothing to do, right? You know, Hedera's, they suck as characters, but they have stuff to do. Gigan is, they're good as characters, but they have nothing to do. And then Megalon, we have a crew of 3 people, and they have nothing to do. And so now we have Nami, her grandfather, the reporter, Masako, the brother, the uncle, the other professor, and then we have the villain, the main villain character. If we don't count him, that's 7 characters.
Did you even mention the Interpol
and they
agents?
all are doing...
There's
oh
2
God,
of them?
there's and one of them's actually important. That's 8 characters as your protagonists. It's like, I don't know who I'm looking at. Which one are you? You're all playing the same characters.
No, literally, that's the actual issue. Is it's like half the cast is like duplicate characters.
Yes. I was going to hold off on talking about this, but you just let it. Like we're 3.5 minutes in, and we're already complaining about this part. Now, oddly enough, I never realized this until now, but it makes perfect sense because I genuinely don't remember characters from this movie outside of Nami because she has a 3-minute singing sequence that doesn't need to be there.
I take it you don't like that scene. Why?
I hate it. I cannot. It is the worst song in the Showa era Godzilla movie. It is so boring. It is so repetitive.
Bro's on to nothing. Never let this man cook again.
I can't stand it. Just when you think she's done, she starts back up again. It's like, God dang it.
It's so... what? Everyone complains about...
It's 3 minutes.
It doesn't feel like 3 minutes.
Trust me, 3 minutes in this case is a long time. Normally 3 minutes isn't a long time for me. But, oh my God.
It sounds like 3 minutes is a long time for you.
For this it is, because I'm sitting there, here's the thing. It's so boring. She's just sitting there, she's singing, and we're getting the same 5 shots. We're really jumping ahead here. We're really jumping ahead.
I'll agree the way it's shot
I can't do it.
Isn't terrifically exciting, but...
it's so flat. It's not like Save the Earth where we have a whole music video. And it's not like the Godzilla March where it's literally 90 seconds. And it's not like the Jet Jaguar where we see we're watching things happen. And it's only a minute and a half. This is the longest one. I'd rather listen to Sacred Springs.
Right. Okay.
I can tell we're having problems.
I think you might just be lame. I mean, I love Sacred Springs too, but I like this song too. Sure, it's no Sacred Springs, mind you, but I like it.
Hey, Ghidorah cameos.
That's so true.
We get stills from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster and Submersion of Japan, because she has this weird
vision of Ghidorah.
Even though Ghidorah doesn't ever show up. I do wonder, if we're being technical here, this happens before Destroy All Monsters?
I mean, the intent behind this scene is that it's related to the whole prophecy deal. That's clearly what it's going for.
Maybe if the black hole aliens actually successfully destroyed Japan, they would send in Ghidorah somehow.
I don't think the idea behind the scene is that it's actually meant to be Ghidorah. Ghidorah is just a stock footage being used to showcase a monstrous.
Well, they also play the Ghidorah roar.
That is true. Yes.
It's
It is
very
a bizarre,
obvious they're
it is a
implying that.
bizarre editing choice, but look, there's a fair few bizarre editing choices in this film.
Oh, there is actually. You're right. I noticed that this time around. This movie, I'm going to say this now. This movie did not hold up upon like actually analyzing it as much as I was hoping it would, or as much as I remembered. But yeah, anyways, getting back into our, the whole thing here. We get those cameos. We get stills from Submersion of Japan and Godzilla's the Dreaded Monster. She passes out, and she's like, "Father, the monster will take fire to the city and trample on the people that try to run away." Oh, whoa, ah.
Meanwhile, our other protagonist, Shimizu, is investigating a cave with our actual female protagonist of the film.
Before that, he just goes walking in the cave and finds space titanium.
Oh, that's
wait, no,
his brother.
Yeah, his brother finds space
Masahiko.
titanium. He goes to the cave,
The
like you
other
said,
cave.
with the reporter. The other cave. There's two caves. Again, it's the same story,
there three
just happening
caves?
twice.
Because there's this cave, there's the
No, there's
King
two.
Caesar cave. Isn't the alien base in a separate
King
cave
Caesar-
to this one? There?
No, Gyokusen is the one where the aliens are also in.
I could have sworn they
There's
said it was like a
the
different
temple
cave
shrine.
at one point. Even though it would have made no
there's
sense
two caves.
for this. Okay.
There's two caves.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I am right.
I hope I'm misremembering.
There's two caves. You are.
I better be.
Now, one thing I did want to take note of, there's a lot, in contrast to the previous films, there's a lot more handheld camera footage in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that, but I just did. And a lot of it's because they're filming on location, right? Like they can't do the cranes, they can't do the dollies, they can't do that stuff. So it's all handheld. But it does kind of lower the production value, I think, a little bit of the film in contrast to the previous ones where they were all on sound stages, where they were all dollies or fixed or crane shots. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I took note of it. It's kind of interesting to see that larger amount of like.
I will agree with you that visually, I don't think this isn't one of the more impressive of the series. There's not that it isn't interesting to look at. It just
there's some good cinematography. Yeah. I think they do some great shots. Yeah. Establishing shots specifically, I think they do amazing with their establishing shots.
It just doesn't quite feel as dynamic as even Gigan even, I think, had more dynamic cinematography with its human action. It's like a lot of the mirror stuff and that.
It could also just be the sets.
It very well could be.
Because there was also some really beautiful sets. And again, I think that comes down to the fact that a lot of this film was shot on location. Because they were getting those deals, those whatnot, and so doing that just kind of positively impacted it, right, or negatively impacted, right? Because they were getting a lot of discounts and money to shoot on location at these places, which reduced the quality of how it would look because they're filming real life stuff, not like sets, and then they also had to film handheld and whatnot. So it just becomes a little shaky and a little. It reminds me of a Kamen Rider episode, right, where it's all shot on location. They don't have the budget for sets, really.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting. Speaking of which, we do get, following the establishment of the Shiza statue, the Black Mountain, the two suns rising, the two monsters and whatnot. We go back to the lab where the reporter is, and she's researching what's going on with the Shiza statue.
And this is where we first see whom is later revealed to be the Interpol agent.
Right. He's just kind of creepily watching her in the university, right? She's at a university.
If I remember right, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we find out she's on a plane with one of our other main characters and the Interpol agents there. I don't understand, like, if this Interpol agent's trying to be inconspicuous, he sucks. Like, he's the most suspicious person in this entire movie.
But I think it makes him the most interesting and memorable character by far. Outside of, like,
especially when you have lines. Yeah.
He's the other, most memorable character of this film.
See, I will say this. I'm going to go off of the English dub because I have that memorized more. Like, lines like, nights like this, you should be talking about love. It's like, how can you not? How can you not, like...
Bro sounds like he needs to get He sounds like he's not quite with police. He's on the other side of the bars. Lines like that.
And then you have, like, Kuronuma's like, Mechagodzilla, beat Godzilla to death.
Have a seat, doctor.
Or, like... And stuff like that. It's like, okay, yeah, you can't go wrong with stuff like that. It's funny.
Space titanium.
Now, you mean it's from outer space?
Classic
lines. Now, going back into the film, I do want to highlight the effects they did for the Black Mountain. So it's a black cloud. It's a black cloud in the sky while they're on the plane flying to Tokyo. They look out the window and they see this Black Mountain, and I believe it's a matte painting, but it's multiple different layers.
Yeah, it looks like it's multiple layers, like when it zooms in because it moves a bit.
Yeah, because it's moving a bit, and it looks beautiful. I love when there's like shots like this where like it's multiple layers of like paintings and whatnot. I think that stuff looks beautiful. Oh, yeah. And I do like stuff like that. I think it's very beautiful.
I mean, pretty much all the the actual compositing work in this film is all pretty solid. I mean, they don't tend to do anything too crazy with it, from what I recall. I don't think they particularly have...
Correct. I agree.
Like, the humans interacting, like, in shots. There actually might not be any now that I'm thinking of it.
I don't think there is. The closest is, like, where they're walking in the Mechagodzilla base. But those look good.
Actually,
they're not very detailed.
There is... maybe like one composer I will criticize, and that's like TV screens look a bit weird.
Oh God, yeah. Especially because of like how fast they do the zooms in
exactly.
The zooms out because they don't want to take the time to actually composite all that. But that's something that Toho, I think, historically had always had an issue with.
But yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, the Black Cloud. Yeah. Shimizu also remembers the prophecy during the scene with what Nami was saying earlier, leading to a very bizarre edit where it's the shot shown previously of her talking about the monsters, but it's like a tile pattern of that shot.
I wonder if the same editor of this also worked on Hedera. That's kind of what I was wondering. I should have probably checked that.
I'm going to check that right now. I'm actually interested in that. No, but they did edit other Godzilla movies. Namely, Megalon, Ghidorah, Biollante.
But I just kind of took it as like it's got to be something. It was probably a stylistic choice, right? Maybe to just make it more dramatic because she's saying it multiple times.
I don't mind it. I just think it's an odd choice, regardless.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, an odd choice again is the fact that we do get. So the previous few Godzilla films did not have returning Showa actors. By this point, the 5-company agreement was already dead in the water. Everybody was free agents. However, for this film, they did bring back Kenji Sahara in a cameo role, Akihito Hirata, and Hiroshi Koizumi, who makes an appearance in the following scene where we find out that one of our characters is related to his character.
2, actually.
And he's taking... Yeah, technically.
But the second one, I don't think ever interacts with Koizumi.
I don't think so, no. And then this is where the reporter or she's not a reporter. I don't know why I keep saying she's a reporter. She's an archaeologist. This is where she's introduced to them being family members. While at another laboratory, the brother is with another doctor researching another thing found in a cave. It's literally, and then the doctor has a daughter, so it's 3 people in this place too.
The daughter, who is literally a useless character other than damsel in distress.
This one scene. I guess so, yeah. Literally.
I mean, is she even useful in this scene? Like, what does she actually do?
No. She says that it's the 10th earthquake this week.
Yeah.
She establishes that Anguirus has been traveling for a week, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's fine.
I mean, I thought the earthquakes were more Mechagodzilla rather than Anguirus.
Well, I would agree, but then in the following sequence, they're like, there's a monster traveling under the ground. And then we see Anguirus traveling underground. So it very much sets up Anguirus as the one who's causing the earthquakes, traveling underground and coming out of the ground.
The monster underground is definitely like Anguirus, because, we do obviously see that. But, I thought it was Mechagodzilla. It was like the aliens causing like the earthquakes, and that like eventually leads to like Mechagodzilla and the mountain and all that.
I just think the mountain thing was there just for the sake of being there. I don't think there's really a reason for it. Especially since Anguirus is traveling in the area, and we see something similar to this in GMK where Baragon's traveling underground, and he causes earthquakes when he does. I don't know. It's just, this film doesn't entirely make sense at some points. Why is Ghidorah here? Why are they talking about traveling underground for 10 days when Anguirus probably shouldn't be doing that?
Why
does Mechagodzilla show up out of a mountain?
Yeah, why does he show up out of a mountain? Why does he have... Why is fake Godzilla a thing?
Because Tanaka wanted to do Godzilla versus Godzilla, and the staff wanted to make Godzilla a villain.
Yeah, but what?
And that was the only way they could do it.
What are these aliens, stupid?
Yes.
How do they know about the prophecy? Why do they know about the prophecy?
Why do they bring an Earth scientist in to fix their machinery? That's what I want to know. That makes no sense.
The funny thing is about with all of these complaints, I genuinely don't mind most of these. Like, I think like the whole bit with like fake Godzilla is a stupid plan. The Earth scientist bit makes fixing Mechagodzilla doesn't really make sense, but I genuinely
Ghidorah doesn't make sense.
But like I genuinely don't mind or care. I don't know why, but something's charming
I think
in this film.
I think it's because this film is kind of a fresh slate, because I mean, we have made our complaints about the cast. We've made our complaints about how the film it's got good cinematography, but it's kind of bland, and it's got kind of a cheaper look to it in terms of the camera work. But Mechagodzilla, I think, is brilliantly executed in this film. I think this film has some amazing fights. It visually, on a color standpoint, has some very colorful moments. The score is great. And it does have memorable moments, right? And it's got some funny moments and whatnot. So I think it's honestly fresh, right? Because we just came from a film that literally was barely a movie, right? It barely had a plot.
And then coming off Gigan, one that's trying and kind of failing at recapturing that 60s magic.
Right. Whereas this film does feel like it found the 60s magic, but it's also overcompensating at the same time. It is a little too...
It's very plot-driven. The biggest issue with that is that the plot itself doesn't make sense. And
once you start actually looking at the plot, it falls through.
With even like an ounce of thought, like the plot just falls apart more and more and more and more. It's still functional enough to just get by, but as we have already mentioned, things like the scientists working on Mechagodzilla, like Miyajima. Like, that's dumb. To put it, like, frankly, it's dumb.
The plot MacGuffin of the pipe.
Oh, yeah.
The plot MacGuffin.
The pipe.
Of the fact that, like, anytime the statue gets stolen, it's a fake, or it's, like, fine. Like, where did they even have time to make a fake statue?
Yeah, literally.
How did they make a fake statue, you know? The fact that we have the same dude, like, try to get the statue 3 different times. The fact that Godzilla's just...
in a factory?
Deus Ex Machina everything. Yeah, he pops out of a factory.
How did he get in there?
Like, why is he in there?
How'd that happen?
Where, you know, and like, why did they use the fake Godzilla suit for some of the shots in the Anguirus fight when they very clearly could have just kept using the real Godzilla suit?
That is a bizarre thing, because I know the idea with it is like to kind of, apparently there was the idea to like use that suit to hint that, oh, it's not the real Godzilla, but then why not like use that suit for the whole sequence?
Where's the consistency?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just this film's script. Fukuda was not a good writer. I'm gonna just be real with you. I think Fukuda was not a good writer.
I mean, probably, but also like victim of the circumstances of these movies. I mean, he's definitely not the most like talented writer, but like that wasn't necessarily what he was hired on these movies to do. It just kind of fell upon him because he had to, because no one else would. It's
also kind of weird considering that this film did have 4 writers. Like, you had the story by 2 people, and then Fukuda co-wrote it.
Right.
And so perhaps that's part of the issue, is just the fact that there was so many cooks in this kitchen, you know, that led to the problems we see. I mean, look at like a film like Godzilla versus Kong, where like there's so much going on, but there's nothing at the same time, right?
With like 7
writers. There's a ton of... Yeah. So, you know, I kind of, I don't know, to me I attribute the concept of like too many characters being kind of a issue of there's too many writers, and they're trying to, you know, they're all trying at the same time to put their own spin on things, and they're trying to include their own stuff, but to do that, they also aren't like streamlining their stories because they want their story to work. I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I making sense at all?
You're definitely getting at like
you were about to say something.
Core issue of like, again, this. It's just a very messily constructed plot that, just needs streamlining with its characters and the actual progression of like all these different plot lines that are going on at once that kind of don't really need to be separate. Right.
Well, because here's the thing. So by this point, we've been established that there's a dude following. So what's that plot? You know, what's this writer's deal? We've got the Shisa statue, right? We've got that team of 3, right? We've got our main character, the archaeologist, and Hiroshi Koizumi. We have the alien guy who's following, right? We have the Nami and her grandfather and the Okinawan legend. And then we have Masaiko and Akihito Hirata and his daughter. So we have 5 plots going on, and we're 15 minutes in, right? And so that's not including the Mechagodzilla plotline or the Godzilla plotline. There's 2 more plot lines that still have yet to be introduced. That's 7 plots. That's 7 stories going on here, right? Because Mechagodzilla is a whole nother story, right? And then you have Godzilla that's kind of always there in the back, right? So it's just very convoluted. And like it takes a long time for one of these to even get wrapped up. Now, I will say, at least in in regards to that, by the end of the film, all the stories are wrapped up, but it's just so convoluted and hard to follow every character in this film.
Well, it's not even that it's hard to follow. It's just messy with how many characters there are.
Especially with how they all overlap with similar things.
Yeah, repetitive, especially in this beginning bit where it's like scientist, other scientist, cave, other cave.
Thing found in cave. Other thing found in cave. Brother. Girl side character. Aliens.
Maybe aliens.
You're absolutely right there.
Who's this Numbara guy?
Why does he look like he's about to find somebody in an alleyway and beat them up? What's with the long trench coat? What about love?
Speaking of him and the aliens, though, as we mentioned, they try to start stealing the statue. So we get a little fight scene between Shimizu in Koizumi's house.
Yeah, and there's so many close-ups in this fight too. Like, we never really get a grand, like, wide or medium shot of them fighting. It's all like really close-up, really grungy, kind of, down to earth. Which I mean, that's something
kind
that
of works
Godzilla
for the
films strictly,
almost making it a more intense fight and kind of making it feel more like a Yakuza film that was like popular at the time as well.
Yeah, I agree there. I do think it's funny how Hiroshi Koizumi's character is just kind of standing there watching all this happen. He does pick up the gun. Like, he grabs the gun and then he's like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, dude, you're just watching your nephew get beat up.
I do love the goofy run that Shimizu has when he goes to chase after the alien. Like where he's flailing his
it's
arms
really
about.
funny.
Oh god.
And speaking of funny, this is where we get the giant rock that flies out and then Godzilla shows up. And then he comes stomping through and everybody's like, "Oh, Godzilla! It's Godzilla!" I will say, everybody.
I found new appreciation for Sato's Godzilla theme this time around.
The discount Ifukube theme.
I actually liked it a bit more this time. It is still definitely discount Ifukube.
Now, this was the second time he had done that, right?
Has he used it? I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's used this. I'm pretty sure.
I could have swore there was another time where there was discount Ifukube.
I don't think that his previous Godzilla scores had this.
It would have had to have been Ibra, I think
so. I don't think Ibra had this.
Maybe not. Or maybe I'm thinking of like against Mechagodzilla with the discount Ifukube.
Maybe you're thinking of Godzilla vs. Kong.
No, I would never think about that movie. I do love how like everybody assumes that Godzilla is the monster to show up to destroy the world. I think that's actually a really cool twist. But I do think it's a little weird that the grandfather of Numi's like, "Oh, good, destroy the mainland."
Well, like the Okinawa, like the tensions between Okinawans and like mainlanders. I think it kind of makes a bit of sense. I thought that was interesting.
It kind of works, but the only thing is, like, they also play it up as like that's a bad thing, right?
That is
like
the weird thing where it's like sometimes he like supports it, sometimes he's like, no, this is the worst ththing that could happen.
Right? It's like this is literally the end of the world, and he's over here like, do it. But we do get the weird close up of Numi like staring down, like, why? It's a very okay. So this film thematically is a very interesting film because it is covering the Japan-Okinawan relations, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the beginning, Godzilla, as we think, is supposed to be the villain, and the Okinawans are supporting that, right? And then that ends up being backfiring because it's actually Mechagodzilla, right? So perhaps it's trying to allude to the fact that like the Okinawans are wrong to criticize, you know, Japan, right? Because later on, Godzilla does show up, and it's very obvious that King Caesar is meant to represent Okinawa, Godzilla is Japan, and Mechagodzilla is foreign powers, the United States. The fact that they're trying to take over Okinawa says a lot too, right? So it's Godzilla and King Caesar, Japan and Okinawa teaming up, fighting and pushing back against foreign influence, foreign power. So perhaps it's like, the Okinawans initially think that, oh God, Japan's the bad guys. Wait a minute, no, it's America. It could be something along those lines. This film was not made by Okinawans, so it very well could be a little bit of that propaganda, like, oh, like the mainland, don't dislike the mainland, don't want the mainland to get destroyed. Support the mainland. That's kind of what I
don't
wonder.
know. I don't necessarily. I think that's actually an interesting way to look at it. I don't necessarily think that's intentional, but I think that is actually an interesting way to look at it.
What, specifically the American Japan Okinawa thing?
Yeah.
I mean, Mechagodzilla is a foreign power trying to come in and take over.
I saw where you were going with that before you said he was America, but I just, maybe it's intentional, but I don't know. I don't see it that way, but I definitely, obviously the whole Okinawa mainland Japan tensions is a small element in the film. But it's not really highlighted beyond this moment with the old man.
Right.
Is the issue.
You could also argue that it could be a whole science versus culture thing because, they want to stop King Caesar from being born so that he can't do things. And to do that, they're using technology. I mean, and the thing about Mechagodzilla is it's always, following the Showa era, it's always been a artificial life technology versus nature, right?
Right. I mean, the issue with that sort of analysis in this film specifically is I can totally see, I totally see all those ideas, and I think those are all interesting ideas. It's not that they're necessarily not touched on; it's that these ideas are touched on very vaguely or touched on once, and then never really. There's no real through line with these ideas to an actual developed theme or statement to the film.
Right. You and that's the thing. And I think to a certain extent that at the end of the day, that is one of the biggest problems is
fully trying to analyze this film is kind of grasping it at straws, which is there's legitimate straws here, but it's you're trying to make a boat out of a handful of straws.
Right. And I think a lot of that, and I think to that point, I think that's one of the things where this film doesn't miss it does miss the mark of going back to the 60s, because we know that Sekizawa wrote satire. We know that he wrote films that had political influence, right?
It's similar to Gigan in that respect, in that, it floats. There's something here, but it's not going anywhere with it.
Same with Megalon.
Yeah.
And if you notice, that's because I think Sekizawa actually wrote the script for Gigan. But it's very obvious that Burnout was here, right? Burnout for the writing side of this, the actual development side, Burnout was very obvious.
Oh, I think it's very obvious just in the stark difference in the human plots in particular, and how this movie in particular and Gigan as well, incredibly plot driven. Plot driven. Not really much of anything in the way of character. Very few actual character moments in either of these of those films.
And I think it speaks a lot to the fact that this film, in its initial story treatment, was more so Godzilla vs. Gigan 2.0 than anything else. And I legitimately believe that's part of the issue, is this film started off as basically just Gigan. I'm happy. I prefer the story we got. I think it works to a certain extent. I don't hate it at all. I didn't struggle finding entertainment in it, but it is a lot of just existing,
Yeah.
The saving grace of this film is we have so many characters that some of them actually have something going on, and we follow those characters enough amount of the runtime that it actually feels like I'm getting somewhere.
And it's also helped by the fact that the kaiju scenes are not a chore to watch this time around.
Right. But I also think it says something that at the end of the film, you don't know if it's a good or bad ending, because they're literally like, "Oh, I hope they got out. I'm sure they did." And then we don't get a resolution. We don't get a resolution. Like, we don't know, like, is it a happy ending or did they sacrifice themselves? We don't know. They never established that.
That's funny. That actually is funny. Yeah.
Like, the dub says, "Your father has achieved a great victory." It's like, okay, so does that mean he died? Did they pull a Sarazawa on us? Is he dead? And then, like, they're in the Japanese subtitles, they're like, "I'm sure he made it out."
Yeah, because I don't think you do see them again.
No, we just see them running. We see them run out of the building. The building that's like right in front of the cave. Like, we see them run out into the road. And then we just see everything explode into flames. Like, there's no real conclusion with our main characters. The closest we get is Numi and her grandfather are happy. The two characters that literally do a lot of nothing in this film besides singing and start the prophecy. They're the only ones we actually get legitimate conclusions on. This film ends on cliffhangers for all of our characters, besides two of them.
Oh, that's funny. That's actually funny.
We have too many damn characters.
So many characters that and only two of them. I love that. I kind of love that. Not gonna lie.
I have problems.
It is a problem, but I don't mind this problem. Not
it's
gonna
really
lie.
weird. It's really weird. I never realized all the problems this film had until I actually sat down and actually looked at it.
That is actually so bizarre, though, to just not... Like, it didn't even occur to me until you actually mentioned it that, yeah, they don't actually appear again after the explosions. So they very well could have died.
Yeah, like, 3 of our main characters could be dead.
We don't know.
We don't know. Which includes our Interpol guy. The dude talking about love. I need to know what happened to him.
I need him to be okay.
I need him to go preach to people about love. Oh, God.
Oh, dear.
It's all about love.
Speaking of love, Mechagodzilla appears.
Actually, it's fake Godzilla. He walks through a
but
building, and then we get the Anguirus versus fake Godzilla fight. Which,
of course.
Which this is also where we get Sato's best piece of music in this film. I love Godzilla versus Anguirus. I think that's the greatest piece of music in this film.
Yeah. I mean, I know you hate Miyazaki's Prayer, but what's your opinion on Defeat Mechagodzilla, the song?
I don't.
Do you know what that is?
I'm trying to think of it.
It's the song that's not used in the movie. It's basically the Mechagodzilla theme, but with like lyrics over it. And it's from the singer of Miyazaki's Prayer.
After a few minutes and Elijah listening to the song, it's okay. I mean, it's a little, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. It's not as catchy as the other songs that were made for the 70s films, but
that's crazy. I think it's an absolute banger.
It's all right. It's I mean, it's the same lyrics 3 times over.
Okay. But
it's all right. It's all right.
Radio.
Speaking of it works. Fake Godzilla appears, the actual suit, and also I never realized how baggy the fake Godzilla suit was until I watched it this time around. It's really baggy.
It is a promo suit.
Yeah. But we do get probably the coolest, like, brutality in the Godzilla franchise, I would say, in terms of, like, deaths for kaiju. Not deaths, but, like, attacks. and that's fake Godzilla like ripping Anguirus's jaw open King Kong style.
Yeah.
Genuinely like brutal. And the roar that like Anguirus makes afterwards, where you can clearly tell he's in pain. It's like, man, they're doing a number on this roar.
Yeah.
Following the rummage of fake Godzilla and Anguirus, they find more space titanium, which then he goes and visits the professor again. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, the brothers do actually share some screen time together.
Oh yeah, but the uncle doesn't share screen
That's
time
true.
with Masahiko.
That's true. And I think this is the longest that any of the people are together, to be honest. I think after this, they're all split up. Now, we do get probably my favorite set piece in the Showa era. Yes. I love the doomsday look of the oil refinery.
Visually, this scene is awesome.
This is the highlight.
Stuff.
This is like the peak of the film. And that's not to be a negative, because this is just a really good, like, everything. The pyrotechnics are great. The camera work is great. There's some great dolly shots. The miniatures look good. The fact it's Godzilla versus Godzilla is just iconic to me.
Oh, it's such a great sequence. And I think one of the parts that kind of works really well for it is that it's also very short. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, the actual fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla here is, like, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be longer, but they cut it, and honestly, I'm happy they did.
It's not like Gigan, where, like, the final fight in that drags on so long.
Right.
You know?
It's also interesting to note that Godzilla shows up here, and we're about 27 minutes into the film. So in this film, like, Godzilla shows up with a little less than an hour left in the film.
Yeah.
And he shows up here and then he disappears again, further confirming the whole idea that Fukuda and Sekizawa probably were both fed up with doing Godzilla.
I mean, Fukuda was apparently so fed up with Godzilla that he thoroughly enjoyed brutalizing him in the climax of this one.
Right. He, like, actively wanted Mechagodzilla to kill Godzilla.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting. I think
it's very funny.
Yeah. I also love fake Godzilla's red or orange breath. I think that's just fun. I love that little visual difference.
Yeah.
Also, the shot where our main characters pull up in the car and the fire's like around the entire window is very cool. I think that's a very cool shot. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you, like, think about it, but I don't care. It looks cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this is one of those moments where, like, they are literally just watching from afar, but it's like they literally drove to this oil refinery to find Godzilla.
Right, but it's also like they're learning what Mechagodzilla is. Like, that works here.
Yeah, they're doing this to ask a question for science.
Right.
And I love the Godzilla versus fake Godzilla thing. This is also where we get introduced to the aliens. And the slow reveal of Mechagodzilla is so cool. Like, we're like, okay, first Anguirus knocked off a pit of the shoulder, and then Godzilla knocks off more of the shoulder, and then Godzilla, like, exposes, like, more of the chassis, right?
Right. And the actual reveal shot, the whole reveal is one of the most iconic moments of the Showa era in general.
Absolutely. And then, like, all the close-ups, like, they knew they had something special here. Like, they knew it.
But even the actual effect of the reveal is really cool. Like, they've got this composite of, like, this like aluminum model, or like this model that they have that they've covered in aluminum foil, if I remember right, and then they set it on fire. Looks awesome. It's so great. Good.
And, you know, going back to our Forbidden Planet talk, I love retro future-looking robots. And this, like, Mechagodzilla feels that to a T.
Oh, incredible design.
I see. So this is going to be one of the rare occurrences where I'm going to talk very highly of anime. I love mech designs from anime. I love robotic designs from anime because they look amazing. They look stellar. They're over-designed but under-designed. They're sleek but complicated, right? Mm-hmm. They're not Kiryu. They're not Ready Player One. They're not Mechagodzilla 2021, where it's very detailed, right? And that's not a negative to those designs per se. I think being detailed's great. I think that's actually like you have to be detailed, right? That's part of the thing is you can't make a lackluster design or else you get 93, right? And 93 is very basic and not very cool. He's the worst looking Mechagodzilla. But the anime influences from mechs here on this Mechagodzilla is so amazing. If I ever had the opportunity to like make a Mechagodzilla design, I would 100% go for like an anime looking Mechagodzilla. I love that idea. I love that look. I love it.
Right. And this was like right when that big like robot anime, like the mecha anime boom was kind of going on.
Super robots were very popular. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And now it is important to note that this Mechagodzilla was mainly inspired by Mechanicon. You know, the whole idea of, well, what do we have Godzilla fight? Well, let's make him fight a robot version of him. That'd be cool.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it came from. But no, I love this. And I love that they relished in it because then we get close-ups of everything. It's so good.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing.
Some influence from like Giant Robo. Like from what I understand, like his actual leaving the hangar later on in the film is pretty much Giant Robo, him flying and his finger missiles, and I think he does laser eyes.
Mm-hmm. And the whole like the weird like joints where it's like I don't know how to describe it, but like the arm joints and whatnot, like that's all taken straight. That's Giant Robo, and that's because so not only was Giant Robo a successful tokusatsu series, you know, Johnny Sacco and
it's just it was a very popular like franchise.
Yeah, it was very popular as a manga initially, very popular.
Yeah.
It did very well.
Yeah, although the Tokusatsu show I think was the most popular.
Yeah, I mean that got syndicated for US distribution too, so. Yeah,
this is true.
So yeah, I mean that stuff was popular. You know, by the time this was out, I'm thinking like Super Robot Red Baron was a thing. You had Mazinger and whatnot. You had all the super robots. So this I mean the 70s was very popular for giant robots. Johnny Sacco and Giant Robo was kind of the beginning of that. That was 66.
And this was like just a few years before Gundam as well started. So yeah, you'd see a whole nother boom in that.
So I would argue that following the whole henshin and sports thing, it was a mech boom. I would argue that was the next big cultural wave was mechs.
Yeah.
And here we see, Godzilla kind of doing that before it was popular.
I mean, you still see a bit of that, like, henshin or sports, like, bit in this film with Godzilla specifically. Like, the next scene, the only other scene of Godzilla we have before the final fight is him going through a sort of training arc, almost.
Right, with the whole lightning striking thing. It's weird to think that there's only 3 scenes in this film with Godzilla.
Yeah.
There's this scene, there's the lightning scene, and then there's the final fight. That's it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Huh. This is a grand example of how you don't need Godzilla in most of your film.
Right.
Like that, we've been complaining about the story and the script. I never even realized that Godzilla's in 3 scenes and that's it.
I mean, the thing is, by this point in the Showa era, it's like, this is the 14th film in the Showa era of Godzilla. So it's like, Godzilla not having a lot of screen time by this point doesn't really matter. He's already well established.
But it's weird because modern films seem to have that issue, right? Like, there is big complaints of like, oh, here's a 2-hour-long movie and Godzilla's only in 10 minutes. Why?
Okay, but in 2014's case, that film is trying to reestablish that's trying to establish a new Godzilla. This
is true. And it also struggles because it's also trying to introduce 2 new monsters plus our human characters at the same time.
Exactly.
But I was mostly referring to King of the Monsters through GXK. Now, in GXK's standpoint, it's just the fact that it's stupid that they try to sell Godzilla as a main character when he's in it barely at all. He doesn't do anything for the plot. Like, at least you can't say that here, right? Like, Godzilla's an important part to the plot. He's a part of the legend. He's the second monster. He saves King Caesar. He destroys Mechagodzilla. You know, he reveals that fake Godzilla's fake Godzilla. Like, he has his reason to be in this film.
He's a part of the prophecy.
Right. Whereas,
he's
like,
there
in
to
that
ruin
film,
the
he's
tension.
just there. It also doesn't help because in that film, he doesn't struggle. Whereas here, he clearly struggles. Because during this fight, we get the first beam clash. You know, Godzilla's struggling. They get the beam clash, launches Godzilla into the ocean, where we just see a spout of blood, which I thought was really cool. Again, this whole sequence is really cool. And then Mechagodzilla escapes whenever his control system gets damaged, I believe. Very good sequence. Easily one of the highlights of the Showa era and the franchise in general.
But then, now that we're back in the plot, we get, again, kind of aliens, like, trying to deal with both character groups at this point.
Right, while one of our character groups is trying to deciphering the statue.
You're right.
And then they go on a journey to Okinawa.
Meanwhile, Miyajima, Masahiko, and the daughter all get captured by the aliens in the cave.
And see, here again, we have both of our characters. They're both traveling. They're both going to Okinawa. They're both in Okinawa.
And encountering the aliens.
Yeah, and then this is where we get the stupid side plot where Akihito Hirata has to help the aliens. See, it doesn't make, like, in, like, Dr. Mifone's case, it makes sense, right? But here it doesn't make sense.
See, at the absolute least, it leads to slithers of a character. it leads to a little bit of a character and, like, him having thoughts and feelings in the movie. Like the regret he feels after having contributed to the aliens' plan after his rescue. That's something this film is kind of lacking.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, but it's something.
I guess.
I know I'm grasping at a straw here.
Yeah, you are.
But it's something.
Speaking of which, we get... Okay, did you not get the vibe that, like, there's supposed to be a romance plot between the archaeologist and our main character?
100%.
But it falls flat. Like, honestly, falls absolutely flat.
They stopped doing anything with it after the boat.
Right, which is where we're at. Right. During the boat sequences, we are interrupted with the whole Godzilla getting struck by lightning. Which, I mean, that's all it is just that. Now, it's a cool scene. I love the lighting in it. The lighting in the miniature scenes, I think, honestly, at the end of the day, the lighting is what makes all the miniatures look amazing. All the effect sequences, specifically with the lighting, is beautiful.
Right. I really wish this movie... I hope the 4K transfer looks at least better than this transfer.
Yeah.
Because this movie deserves a far better transfer than what it's got currently.
I agree. Now we get back to the boat, and they steal the statue again. We literally get the same thing we got before. He steals the statue. There's a close quarters fight. We get the reveal that he's an alien and that he's a monkey. He runs around.
And then he gets shot off by Nambara.
Which I will say this: the sounds that the aliens make in this are actually really kind of creepy. Like they do, again, good sound. They do a good job there. I genuinely remember as a kid not liking the sounds that they make. But I do love how our Interpol agents just vibing again. Also, is this all day for night, this whole sequence?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, day for night.
Apparently the crew was all freezing during a lot of the filming of this boat scene. So a lot of them were given pocket whiskeys to keep warm.
That's funny. They also did that for Megalon too.
Megalon, yeah.
And then this is where
Megalon, I think it was just like the cast members that were given that.
Yeah.
Whereas this was the whole, like, most of the crew.
This is also following all this. We get a lot more of those promotional shots of like the cruise ship and whatnot. Oh, look at all this stuff.
We get a Kenji Sahara cameo as well,
and literally his cameo is literally be there to say, "I'm happy you enjoyed your trip. I'm sure you'll enjoy Okinawa so much." Wink.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, guys. You don't have to. This is almost as bad as the Volkswagen commercial in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire.
Right, but the Volkswagen commercial didn't have Kenji Sahara in it, so
exactly
can't always win.
Then our guests, or our two main characters, arrive at the hotel that we're getting promotion for as well.
Yeah, but mysterious that they can't. The professor and all them. They're not there because I guess they're staying at the same hotel, and I guess they know that.
Yeah, and there's never that communication.
They probably would be told that, I suppose. It makes enough sense.
By who? Where?
They would have been told like before they split up.
When?
Actually. Yes.
They don't say anything. Oh, this film just has people do whatever. It's plot device after. It's plot driven. It's plot significance. I mean, I'm complaining about that, but like Godzilla literally becomes a magnet for no reason from lightning. It's fine. None of this makes any sense. It doesn't matter.
Hey, now. You're taking the wrong influences here.
I know.
Adam Wingard has been a very bad influence on your life.
I know he has. He caused me to start up drinking. Adam Wingard made me into a raging alcoholic. He ruined my life. He took my marriage. He killed my dog.
Oh.
Adam Wingard ruined my life.
Did he steal your cat?
Yeah.
And based all his Godzilla's movements on it?
He stole my story. He took my fan ideas.
Oh, okay, fair.
He took my fan ideas and made them bad. He took my Godzilla designs and made them worse. Adam Wingard's Hitler.
Rightio.
Cut that one out.
Anyways, yeah, the professor helps fix Mechagodzilla.
He does it very fast too. Like it's 2 minutes,
which shocks the aliens as well.
It would be great if we knew why.
The aliens could have fixed it themselves.
None of
it was that quick.
Sense. And then he gets thrown into the brig, and they like torture them with like heat instead of just like straight up killing them. Which I mean, good, but also like, why would you not just kill them?
Yeah, but it is honestly a pretty good tense scene, I think.
I agree. The lighting also helps, and the sound design.
The red lighting helps a lot. That carries that, and the sound design.
Now, while they're being showered in heat and probably about to die, Keisuke, right? It's Keisuke.
Yes.
Ends up going to the cave. He gets caught by an alien, but this is when our lovely member of Interpol shows up and prevents him from actually getting killed.
Yeah, they end up going inside afterwards and rescuing the rest of our cast.
Right, and then before they can truly escape, they get caught again, if I remember right. Some of them do. No. They all escape.
That's later.
Yeah.
We have a half repeat of the Gigan car gag with stuff that is the car exploding from Gigan.
That's right. Yeah,
except it works a little better here.
Right.
Because it makes some sense.
Right, because you have an Interpol agent who's like, wait a minute. I've seen this in a movie before. He doesn't actually say that.
Plus, the tape actually helps it make sense.
And then they eventually they do escape. They get out and they're back to their regular plans, I guess.
Right. Meanwhile, the red sun from the prophecy also appears.
Right, which they're like, oh, this is a mirage. It's a mirage, guys. It's not real.
Meanwhile, Numbara decides he's going to go back inside and take care of those bastards. with Masahiko and the professor who joins because he feels guilty.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird explanation.
Hey, it's the most character development anyone really gets.
Right. And then they run back
to get it for something.
Right. So while they're going back into the cave, they go back and they get the statue and they're bringing it. They fight, they kill some more monkeys, which I guess, did we establish the whole thing about the monkeys? We did, right?
The aliens from the black hole planet 3.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Also, did you see, this is a fun little detail, they have a monkey head on their belt. I think it's hilarious.
Wait, they do?
They do.
Wait, hang on.
They do.
No way.
Yeah, they have a monkey head on their belt.
No, what? Oh my god, they do. Oh my god, I hate the fact I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I love that. I think the whole costume design for them is so funky, but I dig it.
Again, ripped straight out of Ultraman.
I mean, one of the actors is literally Dr. Gory from Spectreman.
Right.
Nah, that's funky. I love that, actually.
It's actually best seen here. So we have our 3 characters going back into the base. We have our other characters who are, now at the Azumi Shrine.
Yeah, get the statue.
And then the aliens show up with the 2 Okinawans, Numi and her grandfather, and they're going to kill them. And then her grandfather's like, this is all your fault. This is your fault. Oh, I'm going to be grouchy because that's my character. I'm grouchy. And then the other Interpol agent shows up finally, and he's like...
The one who isn't set up at all prior.
He shows up at the hotel.
He does?
Yes, he's at the hotel. They show him twice at the hotel.
Oh, they do. Oh. I actually never picked up that was the same guy. Oh.
But they realize that the red moon and the red sun are there, so they put the statue up, which I guess I'm going to bring up a couple of things about a Shisa. It's actually from Chinese origins. The oldest one dates back to 1689 in China, where people were experiencing a lot of fires. So they sought out advice from a Chinese philosopher that was known as a Feng Shui master. And he said that you need to put Shisas out to guard you. They're guardian legendary monsters. Shishi means lion in Japanese, so that's where it comes from. It's a play on that. In Japan, they're very popular, specifically in Okinawa. They became popular after the Meiji period to be put on roofs, which is what we see here. The Shisa statue that reportedly was influenced for King Caesar is actually the oldest one in Okinawa that actually was used as a shelter or a shield for U.S. troops from bullets. So if you go to that specific Shisa statue, you'll see bullets, it's riddled with bullets. And it's in the town it's at, it's a cultural, it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really cool. And we finally get King Caesar an hour and 4 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
And then he's asleep for another 5.
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla gets launched, though.
And he slowly approaches the sleeping monster.
Right. This is where we get the song that lasts for too damn long.
I didn't think it was that, but I've never had that much of an issue with it.
Oh, I can't stand it.
After those 3 minutes, King Caesar finally awakens.
I do love how he awakens. I think it's a really cool dramatic sequence.
Mm.
They do a very good job at making this whole final fight very dramatic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this whole climax is really a lot of fun.
Right. Our 3 characters eventually get back into the base where Mechagodzilla's base. They get captured while King Caesar tries to beat up Mechagodzilla, but doesn't really do that good of a job.
Right. Yeah, but just as it seems all is lost, Godzilla appears.
Now, I must say this intro for Godzilla is so over the top dramatic. I think it's hilarious. And I love that. I do love that. I think it's cool how like the suit actor is being really emotive. The music, the staging. They actually have a homage here to 54 with Godzilla appearing over the mountainside.
Right. And they've tried making the design a little more threatening rather than...
And it works.
Yeah.
I love the updates they did to the Megalon suit here. I think it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, it looks great. The water suit doesn't look great, but it's a water suit. Credit where credit is due. They made a new suit for the water scenes.
Right. Godzilla ends up fighting Mechagodzilla. He does an okay job, and then King Caesar jumps back in. And then we get I love the fact that like Mechagodzilla takes on both of them, like turns his head around and then shoots the other one. Like, I think that's
an
very
incredible shot.
Yeah.
That is an incredible shot.
They do a great job at selling Mechagodzilla as like a big bad here. And then
he is overwhelming.
Oh, and then we get when he like unloads his artillery. Oh my god, I love that.
Nakano, you legend.
This is where Nakano actually got to enjoy his job. And then we get Godzilla being that blood sprinkler, like from Mechagodzilla, which is also really like Godzilla bleeds so much in this film.
Yeah.
Like if we like, I know I mentioned it in Gigan, but here especially, I think it's a whole nother level.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Literal fountain from his goddamn neck.
And again, kind of influenced by Yakuza, you know, I think like Lady Snowblood, where like the blood was splattering everywhere and whatnot.
Yeah.
I kind of see that here. I do love how he becomes a like I already said it, like he becomes a magnet. He's such a plot device in this film.
It's so dumb, but I don't care that it's dumb.
Right. You know, at this point it's like, okay, I can live with that, which is weird. I don't know, maybe I'm too nice on these older films. I don't know.
I think it's just the fact that it's like we've known the plots of these movies for most of our lives, so it's like
they also don't
becoming
wink.
a magnet just we can accept. Yeah, that's true. It just fully accepts that.
Godzilla's become a powerful magnet. Okay.
No one questions it.
They just say it and move on. And then I love how like Godzilla just grabs. I mean, granted, it's like, okay, Mechagodzilla could move his head before, why not now? But you could also argue like this is by force, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just love how Godzilla decapitates Mechagodzilla.
Yeah,
it's such a brutal fight.
I love how he's like pulling Mechagodzilla too.
Mm-hmm. This whole finale is just so over the top violent. Like even the Black Hole Alien 3's death, like he gets shot in
Kuronuma's just neck. It's a blood fountain as well.
Like it's violent. And then we get all those explosions from the base and Mechagodzilla. Godzilla literally gets blasted into the ocean.
Yeah.
Like honestly, it's a very good, fun finale.
Yeah. And it's so much more exciting than Gigan's.
Or Megalon's. It never gets repetitive.
I'd say Megalon's fight is a lot of fun as well.
It's just, this one never gets repetitive, right? Like, it's never like, okay, I've already seen this. Let's try something new. Like, this film just has, it's such a fresh outlook on the monsters. Like, everything's fresh, everything's new. It just works so good. And I love that about this film.
Yeah, it's also just better edited than, like, a lot of those previous films that we'd mentioned in their fights.
Right. Yeah. And then, you know, following that, we get the resolution, which doesn't entirely feel like a resolution, but I digress. I
don't know. The Nami and her grandfather are happy.
Lovely. The two people we spent the least amount of time with.
Yeah. Aren't those the ones you want to see get the resolution?
Nope.
Oh, well, too bad.
Did we miss anything you wanted to bring up?
There is some terrible sound editing for when the bass blows up.
Yeah, no, that's something I will say is this film does kind of have some weird sound editing throughout the film. Um, especially during like major like exciting sequences.
Yeah.
You can easily chop that up to the fact they had a month to like get it done. They didn't even
Yeah.
have a month. They had like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
One interesting thing is there's no inclusion of military in this film, and that's because they didn't want to explore the idea of military in Okinawa. They wanted to avoid that because of the political turmoil that would cause. That was also something in some of the other drafts of the story that got cut, and that's probably why. Did you know that the music for the final fight actually had to be redone because Sato loved the fight so much he didn't want to overpower it with his own music?
Oh, yeah.
But he does reuse music from Son of Godzilla in a film called Judo Saga in the film earlier on.
The Sanshiro Sugata remake. Which is a remake of Kurosawa's first movie. Yeah. I don't know what tracks say. I'm curious what track was reused from Son of Godzilla though.
I think it's during the fight between the alien guy and our main character when they're at his uncle's. I think that's.
I suspect. I did suspect that's a moment where it's a recycled track, but I don't know like what track specifically from like Son of Godzilla or the Sanshiro Sugata remake track. I can't even find much of that soundtrack online. So yeah, that's more or less all my notes as far as I can read.
Likewise. So do we want to do our final thoughts and then cast and crew?
Sure, let's go ahead.
I'll go ahead and jump in here. I'll just say this, like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is very fun and loud. Like it has some lavishing sets and fun moments that outshine like at least the 70s films, right? Like I think this film easily outshines all the other 70s films. But I do think it does have a clear style over substance at points. And in a lot of ways, this film is the glorious send-off of the B team, right? You have Sekizawa writing, you have Nakano doing the effects, you have Fukuda directing and co-writing. Tanaka's still there, right? This is a lot of your B team, you know, the people that worked on Ibra and Son of Godzilla and Hedorah and Gigan and Megalon. This is their send-off. This is the final note for those people. And I think that makes for a very entertaining and heartfelt moment because it truly does feel like the finale to those films, right? The films that are a little less heavy on the humans in terms of their story, but a little more fun or exotic or stylistic, you know? And I think that works for them. Now, like we've complained about all the other 70s films, and as we've said, the humans have a lot more to do in this film. It's more like a Ghidorah the Threaded Monster with the space titanium and destroying the Mechagodzilla base and being the Azumi royal family and the Shiza statue and whatnot. But that doesn't negate the fact that a lot of these people have nothing to do and a lot of these people aren't memorable and there's just too many people in here. This film tries way too much for what is a pretty simple plot. So I think at the end of the day, that's its biggest problem.
Yeah, definitely going back to that, what you mentioned about it being like the send-off of the B team. I think that is a really interesting idea because particularly with those last two films prior to this, Gigan and Megalon, it honestly feels like a mix of what both of those films was trying to do. Story-wise, it's a lot more plot-driven, a lot very similar to Gigan. Obviously, as we mentioned before, the earlier scripts were even more like Gigan, being a borderline Gigan 2.
Right.
With Gigan himself in one version. But like stylistically, it also feels closer to what was being... To me, the style of the film actually and feel reminded me a little more of Megalon. And it's in general got that... It's more fun like Megalon was compared to the meandering of Gigan,
Yeah.
particularly in the monster action, which is it's a little bit. It's not quite as different to what Megalon was doing with its monster action, but it's meandering is a very, very good word, I feel, to describe what was going on in Gigan.
Yeah.
Compared to that, it's the monster action here is a lot more exciting in how it's shot, edited, and in general, like choreographed as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say.
I agree.
And yeah, so its biggest issue really is that it like the human characters is just such a large cast that can just be compressed into about like maybe 4 people. And you could, because there's really just 4 character archetypes in this film that all just have like 2 to 3 characters in those roles. And it's interesting too is that some of these characters who are side characters in the film are main characters in the original story. Right. Obviously Nami, but there's a character in the original story alongside her that seemingly is meant to be Masahiko, who's like the secondary brother. So he's kind of had his role reduced and turned to like a secondary protagonist, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, the story changes from that story draft and then that first initial script and whatnot is very interesting for how they reduced all these characters and altered them.
Right. Yeah.
In some regards, I think it's better. In some regards, I think it's worse, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, really, a lot of these changes. Mm-hmm. But overall, like, in spite of many glaring flaws in the writing and whatnot, I think this film is still, it's fun, it's entertaining. I can put it on and have a good time.
Yeah. Are we ready for the cast?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Masaki Daimon played Keisuke Shimizu, who was in Return of Ultraman, Ultraman 80, and Terror of Mechagodzilla. Kazuya Aoyama played Masako Shimizu, who was in Zone Fighter. Reiko Tajima played Saiko Kaneshiro, who was in Parasite Part 1. And the Japanese voice actor for Sigourney Weaver in Alien and Ghostbusters. Barbara Lean played Nami Kunigami. Hiromi Matsushita played Ikugo Miyajima. Akihito Hirata played Hideto Miyajima, who was in Godzilla, King Kong vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Threaded Monster, Ibra Horror of the Deep, Son of Godzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla, Rodan the Mysterians, The H-Man, Secret of the Telesian, Baron the Unbelievable, The Three Treasures, Latitude Zero, Prophecies of Nostradamus, The War in Space, Sayonara Jupiter, Revive Ultraman, Ultraman 1966, the movie, Rainbow Man, Daitsujin 17, Ultra Q, Ultraman 1966, Mighty Jack and Fireman. Hiroshi Koizumi, who played Dr. Wakura, was in Ikaru, Godzilla Raids Again, Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, The Return of Godzilla, Godzilla Tokyo SOS, Mothra, Matango, Atragon, Dogora, Prophecies of Nostradamus, Ultra Q, Rainbow Man, and Superstar Grand Caesar. Goro Mitsumi, who played Kuronoma, was in Terror of Mechagodzilla, Espy, The War in Space, Ninja Corps Gekko, Ambassador Magma, Mighty Jack, Japanese Ghost Story Theater, Fireman, Ultraman 80, Space Sheriff Gavin, Cybercop, the Japanese voice actor of Russ Tamblyn in The War of the Gargantuas, and Mirror Man. Kishida Mori played Minami Hara, who was in Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo, The Vampire Doll, Evil of Dracula, Lake of Dracula, Sun Vulcan, Silver Mask, Ultraman Ace, Super Robot Red Baron, and Submersion of Japan. As for your crew, Hiroyasu Yamura was your co-writer who worked on Ultra Q, Ninja Corps Gekku, Shin Ninja Corps Gekku, Ambassador Magma, Ultra 7, Monster Prince, Mighty Jack, Fight Mighty Jack, Mirror Man, Horror Theater, Unbalanced, Jumborg Ace, Dinosaur War Eisenberg, Star Wolf, Dinosaur Squadron Poseidon, and Ultraman 80. Marusu Sato, your composer, worked on Godzilla Raids Again, Ibra, Horror of the Deep, Son of Godzilla, Half Human, The H-Man, The Hidden Fortress, The Bad Sleep Well, Yojimbo, Senjiro, High and Low, Redbeard, Stray Dogs, Submersion of Japan, and had a brief cameo in stock music in Godzilla Final Wars. For these people, I'm not going to give all their credits because if I did, we'd be here another 25 minutes. Tomoyuki Tanaka, your producer. Shinichi Sekizawa, your co-story writer. Masami Fukushima, as I previously mentioned. Teruyoshi Nakano, your director of effects. And Jun Fukuda, your co-writer and director. Now, Rex, I think we have one last thing here to do, and that's our rankings.
Oh, yes.
So we've watched 16 films, so we're going to start at our worst, go all the way up to our best. I'm curious to see where Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla lands on our lists.
Yeah.
So number 16, I've got Godzilla Raids Again.
Yeah, I actually changed my ranking slightly for following a recent rewatch of Raids Again the other week. So at number 16, and some further reflection, so at number 16, I've got Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My number 15, I have Godzilla Kong, The New Empire.
I've got Raids Again there.
Okay, makes sense. My number 14's Mothra vs. Godzilla.
Can't relate, bro. Godzilla Kong at 14.
So far, we're similar. My number 13 is Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Fair. I can't believe Gigan's my least favorite at the moment now.
That's kind of surprising.
It's literally one of my first movies in the franchise. Anyways, at number 13, I've got Destroy All Monsters.
Well, that's funny because my number 12 is Destroy All Monsters.
Oh, was Gigan your 13?
Yes, Gigan was my 13th.
I'm already forgetting the numbers. That's crazy. 12 for me is Megalon.
See, that's my number 11, Godzilla vs. Megalon.
I've got All Monsters Attack there.
Can't relate. My number 10 is Ibra, Horror of the Deep.
I've got at number 10, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So it's on the lower half of what we've covered. That's interesting.
It's still it's on that half that I like though.
Okay, that's fair.
That I like.
So my number 9 is Son of Godzilla.
Really, now there's only one film in this list that I actually kind of dislike. If I'm being honest here, Gigan I actually dislike.
I have two that I dislike, and that's I have one that I dislike, and that's Raids Again.
My number 9 is Ibra.
Okay. See, my number 8 is All Monsters Attack. I know you put that one way lower. I actually enjoyed that one.
I got Son of Godzilla. I mean, All Monsters Attack, it's like, I think it's an okay watch. I think talking about it is more interesting than watching the actual film, though.
That's fair. That's fair. I do think it's funny how we have the Island trilogy, not including Destroy All Monsters, all pretty close to each other. I think that's really interesting. My number 7, out of the Island trilogy and to others, is Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Mine is, at number 7, is King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Funny, that's my number 6, King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Well, at number 6, I have Mothra vs. Godzilla.
Oh, wow. That one really went up.
Yeah, it went up a little bit, yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, it has been a few years since I've seen King Kong vs. Godzilla, so...
That's fair. So my number 5, this is where Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla resides. That's because I think it's more fun than King Kong vs. Godzilla. I think it's more fun. However, its characters are not nearly as good as the films that follow. The funness beats King Kong versus. The characters are better in King Kong than in Mecha, but because of how fun it is and the fights, it goes above King Kong versus.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't really know your opinion on this movie very well earlier, but I'm actually kind of surprised. I think this kind of seems like a film that would be lower for you, in all honesty. So I'm kind of surprised by that.
I think because the technical aspects are a lot better, I can put it up higher. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah.
So what's your number 5?
Astro Monster.
That's my number 4. You can't beat Nick Adams. Like Nick Adams won like one v8s all of these characters.
Nick Adams, the GOAT. My God.
So what's your number 4?
Well, from here, it's basically the same as it always is. 4's Hedera.
My number 3 is 54.
Ghidra for me.
Number 2 is -1.
54 for me.
And number 1 is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
I got a -1 at number 1.
And so with that, we have ranked 16 of the Godzilla films. We are almost halfway through the franchise. We got a lot more to do, but
One
hey,
more
we're
for
getting
the
there.
Showa era.
Yeah. Well, with that, I've said everything I need to. Is there anything you need to say, Rex?
I think I've said everything. Said my piece on everything.
Well, I do have one last thing to say.
Oh, yeah?
Hello, I'm Elijah, and I have a Kaiju and Tokusatsu problem. Joking aside, I am Elijah Thomas. I am a writer. I've written for GodzillaMovies.com and in Kaiju Ramen Magazine and Kaiju United, of which I'm the Chief Innovative Officer for. My writing has also been featured in the book Giant Bug Cinema, a Monster Kids Guide from Bear Manor Media, where I wrote about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I've also been given the privilege to work with my good friends at Giant Monster BS, Grattan and Matt, on their newest season, Season 2, where they're covering independent kaiju films. Outside of writing and podcasting, I have also served as a consultant on the upcoming Titanic Creations officially licensed Yongari articulated figure. Go to titanicreations.com/Yongari to order yours today. I have also had the privilege to produce bonus features for SRS Cinema. I have worked on Yuzo, The Biggest Battle in Tokyo, Liverleaf, War of the Ninja Monsters, Zeiram vs. Gora, the upcoming release of Sharkdemic, and did I talk about Hoshi 35?
I think so.
I don't know. I'm doing Hoshi 35, by the way. If anybody didn't know that. I don't know.
Now they do.
Maybe I just revealed that. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I feel like I talked about that last time. I don't remember. You can order all of those Blu-rays on srscinema.com. Yuzo and Liverleaf have wide DVD releases available from any major online retailer. I'm also a filmmaker and YouTuber. You can check out my stuff on my YouTube channel, ET13 Productions, where you can see some of my short films, such as SOS Seek Shelter, Bio Project, and The Invisible Teacher, along with my old YouTube videos, and a playlist that features all of my appearances on YouTube. I'm going to continue to posting old student films as time goes on, so definitely check that out. You can also check out my action figure photography on my Instagram at ET13_productions, and my ex, the artist formerly known as Twitter, thanks Danny, at the same handle. Rex, where can people find you at?
Well, dear listeners, you can find me on YouTube at Rexino, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and on Instagram, Rex_Xeno. And if you want to check out some of my writing, go take a look at the Tokusatsu Network.
And as for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't. That's a lie. I'm reading a MacBook. It literally says MacBook Pro at the bottom of the screen. But you can rate us on Spotify now. That's something they allow you to do. To stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, head over to www.kaijuconversation.com to find all of our episodes, social media, news, and updates. Follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you. You can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually we'll have original artwork on there, but until then you can sport our awesome logo on a t-shirt or maybe even a coffee mug. If you'd like to chat with us, check out our Discord server full of others that have similar interests to you. Recently in our General 1 chat, there was a conversation about...
What a fascinating conversation.
big Hollywood movies and the Monsterverse. It's a great community full of great people. Don't forget to subscribe to your YouTube channel and hit the bell. Jesus fucking Christ! I need to slow the fuck down. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video. We sometimes post exclusives to the channel, like bloopers for episodes or minisodes talking about news or other subjects. We also have an interview with Mechagodzilla designer Jared Krzyzewski on the channel, and I definitely butchered his name. I'm so sorry about that. And a huge thanks to Rex for editing all of these episodes and all the other content we upload. His links can be found in the description below. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DiManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Danzilla93_GNP or visit his website, GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. And a huge thanks to Grattan Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. So thank you guys so much for listening. Episode 1 of Godzilla Month 2024 is already done. Godzilla vs. Gigan. It's out of the way. Thank God.
What is next?
Who knows? One must wait till we can find out. Unless you're listening to this in the past, then you already know.
Might relate to a Megalodon.
Or future. I meant future. But if you're listening from the future, that means you must know that what comes after this is me telling you to remember, as always, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We are set, we are in debt, there's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. Kaiju, not too big now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.